Well, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, or good evening, where you all are. It has been brought to my attention countless times that I take forever to respond to my emails and my questions. I mean, your questions, and you're absolutely correct. I am working way too much, and I keep thinking every time I go to work, maybe at least I can start going through emails on my phone. That never seems to happen because it just doesn't seem to happen. So we'll try to organize of me actually answering some of your questions of the many, many, many hundreds of questions. So I hope you're all here. And I would like to talk a little bit about planning this year's trips. The first one, I'm going to try to push it as far in towards April as possible. Uh, I will be, plan is, I'll be flying into Prague and I have to go to Switzerland. The plan for this year is, I have written it down. The plan is we will get the second Panzer SS to encircle Davos and, no, I'm sorry, that's the wrong plan. I have to go to Switzerland anyway, but I'm not invading Davos. So I will circle through Austria and up to Switzerland, come down France, and then quickly through Germany, and then spend quite a bit of time in Poland, hopefully Hungary, Czechia, Slovakia. Look at some of those sites far out of the way. I don't think Norway is going to be until the late summer, and I think the same thing for the British Islands, just because of the weather. I would like to actually bring you some good footage from both places, and a lot of these are very near close to the coast. And we see drowning drones flying all over the place there all the time. So anyway, I would like some of your suggestions of some of those far out of the way places that any of you have any ideas or suggestions. I will be visiting places in Switzerland as well. And bringing us to that, a little website update for Lost Battlefields, which is slowly growing. I keep putting up episode photos, especially, of course, some special projects, The Last Nazi Secret. Files that Crystal noted that we should probably name all the PDF files I uploaded there so you can actually read from their name before you download them actually are. That is one thing. And also, we put out in the newsletter, Robert put out the newsletter. Hey, Robert, morning. Did you get your coffee?
Crystal writes it. I just formulate it and send it out to the masses. But Crystal writes it, and I track you down. I nail you to a wall, and I get you to tell me what's going on, and then I tell Crystal. Crystal writes it, and then I send it out. Yes.
The biggest evolution for our research is that now it is not an I, now it is a we.
Yes.
Because now I actually get stuff done. And we get to commit more with you guys, and that's all awesome. And I couldn't do it without you guys. And we have, because of what you have all asked for years, a shop. Now we have a shop with some cool clothes and some cool coffee mugs. We have a coffee mug that I'm really, really happy with, and I'm pretty sure the Kamala family will either kill me, disown me, or laugh their ass off when they see it. I don't know if they ever thought that their grandfather would turn into a commercial object, but here we are. And we're gonna go talk about the shop because I'm dying to show you some of this stuff. It was actually good quality and too. And I wanted to, hopefully all of you guys will send suggestions and photos. Send me photos of some of the places that are near you or you see that we can share on the website. And there's a lot of times you guys write me, we have a thing, they're here, I saw this bunker, I saw this fort. Send me pictures and a little description of what it is and where it is, and we'll put that on the public part of the website so everybody can sort of start sharing, because that's what Lost Battlefield is all about, is about all of us sharing what we have near us or with us, what we come by. And sometimes you have things that I don't know or you don't know, we'll put it up there with a question mark. So we all get involved. And if you have little videos you want to do of something, little walkthroughs of what you come through, you want me to put them up. Let's get some more of that on the website. let's get some of your input, some of your backyard war stories. And well, I want to let Robert. Do you want to show them what you've done on the
Yeah, I'm just going to point out a couple of things in
right,
regards to the
and
picture.
Machine Radio Show is doing a bit of design as well. And
Yes.
I keep looking
So
at you.
as Tino says, Tino is not very great at checking emails. However, I check the one that I just threw it in chat. It's oh damn, they completely screwed that up. Anyway, Lost Battlefield. I'll fix that. Info at lostbattlefields.com is the secondary email. So that's info at lostbattlefields.com is the secondary email. I check that once a day. So if you want, send your pictures there, and it'll be probably seen faster than sending it to Tino at hotmail.com. Just saying. And then I will forward it on to Tino. And
and pester me until I make sure I read it, because I'm still 185 emails deep. And and honestly, it really does bother me. I can't get through it, and because there's so much information you guys are sending me, and I will get through them all because of that very reason. My biggest problem is a lot of times, as Robert knows, I want to get. I always said the goal is I want to get up a new episode every week. And of course, I also have to work my little day job, and I can't work on all of them on my stuff. So sometimes I just turn off my computer and my phone, and I just focus on the presentations for you as more important than checking emails or phones. And I keep saying, well, all right, now I'll get an episode up, and then I'll check my emails, and then I have to start on next week's episode, and then it just spirals into hundreds and hundreds of unread emails. But I promise you, I will read all of them. And if you are here today, if you have questions, information, absolutely, I'll get to that. And locations, now that we're starting to plan for this year's trips. And somebody did ask me about if we're going to start doing tours. I would love to do 2-week tours where we get a bus and we all meet in X city and drive around. We could do separate tours, one in the east, one in the west, and visit forts. That's always been the intention, that we can all get together. But the travel situation, gas prices, everything. I'm going to say, let's get the world back to normal, and we all hope and pray that that's even a possibility, that the world ever will get to normal. Or otherwise, I guess we have to get the second Panzer rolling up towards Davos and have a conversation about
something like that. So basically, a couple of things. I'll quickly throw this out. Throughout the conversation, if you have a question for Tino, just hit @Rambling Canuck in chat so that it highlights it for me, and I will copy and paste it to another screen I have open, and we will get to those questions. But if you could just do me a favor and do the old @Rambling Canuck, because I see it on the chat, because it just kind of goes, all over the place. But anyway, just hit the @Rambling Canuck. Okay, so quick little things. The store is open. This is kind of a soft launch. So we are planning on having a secondary store that Machine can tell you about, but Machine will be running that one. I'm running this one. Machine will be running that one. The secondary store will be specialty stuff. So stuff that is handmade, and it'll be maybe more price ways, but it'll be better quality. But in order to get that off the ground, you need capital. So that's where this store comes in. This store is going to help fund Tino's travel if we have to tie him down and make him accept money. Or it'll also fund the secondary store that we will be opening hopefully February, March. But first we need to get the capital to be able to get Machine off the ground and running. So we will.
I will say I have constantly put my foot down on anything that has my image or name on it, because I don't think I'm important or interesting enough.
I've still snuck in a few, folks. And I'll be showing you one or two of them in a minute. But so basically, the main store. I had trouble with the PayPal link. I will look at that later then, Jeff. I will make
You
sure
want
that
to show
everything's
people what
running
you've
on the
done?
Stream Elements side. It should be okay. It should be just plug and play, but we'll take a look. We'll take a look at that. So yeah, and then
And I've been trying to come up with interesting military like slogans that are fun and that are interesting. So we all have to can go around the world, show our colors, and
yeah, and
get
not only
a
that,
couple
but
smiles.
I've also thrown in a couple of joke ones, which we'll see shortly, just because I thought they were funny as hell. So and then also I do take suggestions in the Discord. So if you just do the old @Rambling Canuck, I think I would like a shirt with blah blah on it. There was a couple like, can you get more shirts that just have the straight, just Lost Battlefields? So I made up a couple more that just have Lost Battlefields written on it.
Yeah, that's.
Getting back to regular.
I have become more conservative in my old age than I was 15 years ago when I had highlights and rhinestones. Don't know how that happened. Did you say blah blah on a shirt? Because I think a lot of guys would probably like to have her on their shirt.
Yeah. There was one image I sent you that we can't put on a shirt, but because we'd get canceled right away.
I think Lady Blah Blah should probably be the one to model some of the Lost Battlefield ladies wear. I'm just saying.
Yeah. There you go. All right.
I did promise her a jacket.
Also, a couple of quick things. Hopefully, everybody is getting the newsletter. If you're not getting the newsletter, please do let me know in Discord. Secondly, I have sent this out twice in the newsletter, and I still haven't got a single reply. So, to all those who are paid members, hey machine, to all those who are paid members, please hit me up in Discord, because you do have a member ranking in Discord, but nobody has actually messaged me so that they can be promoted to member in case we ever decide later in the future to do private screenings with just the members. That's where that will be facilitated. However, right now, the only ones that would have access to that are the Grunts and Crystal and Machine. So it would be a very short group. But yes, if you are a paid member, please do reach out to me in Discord. I'll get you all hooked up with your membership status in Discord.
And then I'm sensing we're saving up for a webcam for Crystal. I'm sensing.
No,
she might be saving up for
we're okay.
For you.
We're okay.
My new little computer has a web camera on it, but it just does not have the RAM to run one.
It cannot capture all that is you, is what you're saying.
Bite my ass, Tina.
Does it need photo touch?
I love you. Bite my ass.
What's
that could also be seen as a compliment, by the way.
All right, so here we go. Let's go. All right, so I'm gonna.
I've lost so much weight. 3/4 of my clothes I can't even wear anymore.
All right, so let's do.
All right, hang on. Let's.
Fort Drum. I'm not going to Fort Drum.
Yeah, that's.
No,
I don't have that up yet.
Robert, what did you do? You're not ready yet.
No, I'm posting in the chat. There you go.
Hey,
all right.
Hey,
so now there you go.
There is actually a concrete ship out in well, it's now in Poland with a huge what's it called factory that I will be going to, because not just the Americans built these cement cargo ships, the Germans actually built them as well, and there's one of them still sitting on the water that I will crawl out. There's a couple of days of hiking. There you go.
Is that one I found last year?
Yeah.
I have found so many places for you that I've lost.
They're all being pinged on the on my YouTube on my Google map, so I can. But this year I want to plan more. There's more and more of the official that I need to get permissions for this trip, so I'm starting to write them now, including the meeting with the BIG up in Austria. We all know how that's going to go, right?
Like a lead balloon.
Yeah, well, we'll see. But there's a lot of these places. Also, Goebbels' house. I need to talk to the German BAG. Adelhorst tunnels. There's another part. There's some old government tunnels that the command center that's built during the war. So there's a lot of these places I have to get in. Actually, I get to get proper permission. So I'm starting those negotiations now, and then I'll probably go see Igor Bykowski again in Poland. And anyway, Robert, they asked for the shop. Here's the shop. Let show people what you got and anything.
All right, so this was the joke one. This was the original image that I made as a joke. So we have Templar Tino on a mug.
Obvious.
Yeah, because I just think it's freaking hilarious.
You all have no say in this anymore.
Available. Like I said, he does buck when you try to put his face on things, but I'm a jackass, so there's that.
Well, yeah.
So now we also have,
and I can take backgrounds out of pretty much everything.
Yeah. So we have a Lost Battlefields hoodie. It has Lost Battlefields written on the front, black and red. Colors are black, red, white, and military green, because, it's Tino. And then the back just has Lost Battlefields written on the back, so that it's just a straightforward shirt or sweater. We also have the Lost Battlefields t-shirt. We have the In Tino We Trust, which is kind of funny. I took the American presidential seal and I put In Tino We Trust on it because I thought it was funnier than hell. So we have that sweater. We have it.
I had to let him have that because I actually agreed that I thought it was. Except I'm saying when we go to war, we have to remake because then the eagle have to look the other direction.
Yeah. So we have that one. We have the In Tino We Trust crew neck sweatshirt. This one's kind of all over the place. It's got Lost Battlefields on the sleeves, In Tino We Trust, and then it's just got a plain back. So we've got that one.
Finally, come along.
I'm planning on making a couple also, but at least one of mine's going to have spooters on it.
So we got a mosquito one. We know that.
Find the Kamala mug. I think we got to.
Yeah. I'll get down to that. I'll get down there. Keep your panties on. All right. So Lost Battlefields baseball caps.
He wears panties. We're in trouble.
Regular male T-shirt. The In Tino We Trust one, and the female T-shirt available in pink because we have the rain jacket. It's Champion, so it should be good quality. It's our little rain poncho. It's got In Tino We Trust. I'm a little nervous about the stitching, but I'm hoping it'll turn out great. And then because I'm Canadian, I got to throw a winter toque in there somewhere. And then there's another Lost
Battlefields. Half the time it's raining where I'm going, so
Lost Battlefields cap, Lost Battlefields shirt. Again, just playing with the different fonts. This I thought was hilarious. So we have the anti-Karen all-purpose vehicle 4x4. That's a sticker. Then we have pole grenade throw pin, because you have those kind of days. So we have that in sticker and in mug. Straight form, Lost Battlefields, and then this is the mug that Tino is talking about. The truth is down there, and we have. I'll bring it up in the actual here, so that I can do the full panoramic.
And I could see us start doing cups from the posters of some of the top episodes.
Yeah. So here we go. This is the mug. So the truth is down there, and it's got a nice little graphic on there, little tongue in cheek. Tino really thought this was hilarious, so hopefully you guys like it.
Yes,
so we have that.
You can blame me for that one. Yeah, just wait until you see my idea for a Himmler dining set.
Just remember, we're blaming everything on you.
So we have that one. And then because you guys always are in election, in election phase, we did this one just because I had to, because I thought it was funny. So we have Make History Great Again on a mug.
Nothing to do with that.
this was my brainchild. So we have make history great again with the American flag and Tino on the mug. It's a little tongue in cheek and thought it was funny. So we have that one.
We will take ideas and suggestions from you guys as well for what you think is funny.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
it would be great if we could one day all end up going to like the War and Peace show, and then a bunch of people showed up with Lost Battlefield shirts or Jackie hoodies or something.
Yeah,
Just,
absolutely.
I want to go to gun shows, military shows, and see people wear these. I'm just saying.
I still think we should camouflage boxers with your face on it.
Okay, I need to get a sweatshirt. I need to get a sweatshirt and go get a picture taken in front of Iron Mike out on Fort Benning. It's Iron Mike is a statue on Fort Benning, and it's infantry.
Could do.
So we have the Intino We Trust, just simple mouse pad. We have it in. I thought this was hilarious. It's a mink blanket, so it's a little throw blanket, and it's got Intino We Trust on it. I thought that was hilarious. We have it in sticker and we have it in mug. And then these were just the basic ones that I did just because. So they're just basics. New stuff is added as it comes to my brain. Also, anybody who wants to add, wants something or has an idea, hit me up in Discord, or that's usually the fastest way, or send an email to info@lostbattlefields.com. I check that daily. So
could we do the Kamala, the truth is down there as a sticker as well?
I believe I did that.
I think you did that, yeah.
If I haven't done it, I can do it. Yeah, it's right there.
Sticker. I was like, and cool slogan ideas. Let us know.
Yeah.
Remember, you all asked for this. You asked to be inflicted with this.
Yeah. So, and again, like I said, this is the startup store. It will. The main purpose of this store is to A, fund Tino, B, fund machine, and get him the products that he needs to be able to pump out the more, shall we say, quality merchandise.
Yeah, with machine, you make some really cool custom stuff. And I remember the beer mugs and the shot mugs that you had.
Yeah.
And sooner or later, we're going to have some Viking beer horns with Lost Battlefields and runes as well. I'm just thinking it out loud. When the outlaw cow, we have to go shoot some deer anyway. So,
speaking of that, I do have 2 signs with the Viking symbols all over them behind me.
I think we need Viking helmets
with the runes all over it. Yeah.
Yeah, no horns.
No horns. Yeah.
Why not?
Because the Vikings didn't have horns on their helmets.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really bad Hollywood thing.
Yeah.
My grandmother, who was a Viking historian and had me crawl around Viking digs, digging up old settlements and ships, and from when I was a kid. When I ended up doing films, she was still alive, and she always said, "If you ever do a Viking movie, just remember, Vikings did not have horns on their helmets." That's one of the last things she always reminded me of. So yeah, we're not gonna do that one. But I could see the Viking thinking
like Cherokee Indians. The men did not run the tribe; the women did.
And actually, some women did go Viking as well. It was not all men. That's a little bit of a fallacy that I just heard some talk show hosts talk about how women were not amongst the Vikings. They actually were. They even found female skeletons with battle scars that had healed up from women that had been went Viking. And remember, Viking is not something you are not a Viking. Viking is something you did.
Yes,
you went
it is
Viking.
an action, not a.
It is an action. It is the annual action. You went Viking. Viking, large-boned women singing, better than large-boned men singing. Oh, hang on. Let me put you up. Where's that thing? Oh, how do I enlarge you? How do I do that?
Cheeseburger?
Well, I see it. Why can't I make you any bigger?
Ooh,
Just
that's
put-
nice machine.
Go down to his window underneath, and there'll be a square in the top left corner. Click it.
I like that.
There's no square down there.
You just bring your cursor over where his little square is underneath the screen. There'll be a little square.
Solo
There
man.
you go.
There you go. Now it's all about you.
Yes, Jeff, the lathe toolbox is upright again. He got a photo from me the other day where I dumped about I don't know, about 500 or 600 pounds worth of lathe equipment on the floor.
Oops.
Oh, good.
Why?
Well, it seemed like a good idea at the time.
See, why not?
But this is a small one,
I
actually.
like that. I like that.
This is a small one. It's made out of all recycled materials, by the way.
That is pretty, though.
Actually, from an ammo box.
Of course.
Well, here comes the bigger one. If I can pick the thing up and hold it up.
Robert, you don't need to fix your hair. You look fine.
It bothers me when I can see myself on camera.
Hey,
There we go.
wrong.
That
Yeah,
is
that-
pretty. I like that.
Yep.
Oh, I love those. Yeah, those are really cool. And that's like I always thought that we should do stuff that can, we all want to belong. We're all historians, and that's why I came with Lost Battlefields, because there are so many of them, and that is our interest. That denotes a lot of things. Like, it's not about me; it's about the history, and if we can come that under one umbrella of Lost Battlefields,
Right.
but it can also be, cool slogans and like you have there, cool decor, cool glasses, stuff that you can actually have and use. And that's why I always objected to t-shirts with picture print. Always that it's uncomfortable to wear, it doesn't last, and it's a little tacky. So like, rather have an interesting slogan or something that we can all unite behind. That's not too silly. A little silly.
I'll tell you what.
What's the one you say about a hole in the ground? Tino? What is
Which
the
one?
one you say about if there's a hole in the ground, you'll find it?
Said a lot of
go back and
similar
look.
sentiments that are that probably should not be.
I think the
Repeated?
command thing, if there's a hole, we're going to find
Public.
it. But I'll tell you what. I'll make a deal right now. Since we're talking about the launch of the secondary store, those two signs will be held for that store, and they will be a limited edition.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Cool.
cool.
And the Jeff was talking about the lamp behind me. I don't know if you can barely see it. Actually, Jeff, that stands from the floor, completely custom made as well. Any gearhead would be proud to have that thing. It's made entirely out of spare parts.
I need to
what
go look at
what
the
it should all
thing.
be, what it should be. It should be stuff that we would like to have and like to show and show our interest in history. That I think is about the topic of this.
Shot
And
glasses will be available. Yes.
Okay, I want you to do one of a picture of the Wilhelm Kirche in Berlin.
and then we get suggestions from some of our friends that are less than kosher. No.
Selling a small tire.
Selling a small tire. Hey, don't get me started, because that's actually what I do. Is I mean, everything I make is with my hands. So don't get me started. I will make something that's out of a half of a tire and make him sign it. And then sell it.
Yeah, we should start selling small tires. I saw that one of the questions. We always seem to find them. I'll start gathering up the tires and bring them. You know what? What can we make out? What piece of art can we make out of old tires? That seems to be synonymous
Tables.
with finding things in whole.
Oh,
Glass top tables is what people that collect the NASCAR tires, that's what they turn them into.
That's a bit of a thing to ship. By the way, Iron Cross 2. Iron Crosses. Didn't we have something on a Maltese cross? Something. Also, I'm trying very hard to not make it look like we we are a politically sided bunch of nutters
Yeah. There's that.
for obvious
Oh
reasons.
hell,
but
then
that's
we
not what
need to
it's all
sell
about.
German
But
beer. Hell, I'd be happy then.
I was trying to think about from the last from the movie Iron Cross that I just did, if there's anything from there that would be interesting to replicate, like from Brothers War. We could sell pocket watches for Brothers War on the back. Oh, cool.
The heck is that?
Hang on, I'll get you your solo. Hamming it up down there.
Well, everybody should know what this represents. That'd be a midget version of Atlas.
Uh-huh.
Then there's
Is that a millennial?
everything's us. I mean, this is what I used to do actually for a living, was make artwork like this. I mean, every lady needs a flower, so how about make one out of engine parts?
There you go. Isn't that kind of like giving her earrings that double as fishing lures?
Midget weightlifter, some guy had me make.
I mean, the history of the Maltese cross is kind of interesting because it had nothing to do with the National
Well,
Socialists.
that's cute.
There's going on in the chat. There's a lot of talk about this happened. This started way before that, and then of course the bikers took it on themselves. So now you have the chopper Maltese cross. Maltese crosses were sold for a lot of, or promoted for a lot of different things. Unfortunately, I had a friend of mine. He had a Maltese cross tattoo because he was a biker, an all-American biker, and he tried to join law enforcement. And they saw it as what people will sometimes see it as, it's National Social, oh, you're Nazi, or you're right wing, whatever. So he actually didn't get in because he had a Maltese cross tattoo, which is ridiculous because it's such a. I don't think it can be seen only as such. But then, of course, we have to know a little bit about history before we decide to say what it is and what it isn't.
Yeah.
I had a friend that was an Army recruiter, and he had to cover up his tattoos on his arms. He always had to wear long sleeve shirts.
Well,
yeah.
You'd be surprised that in 2005, when I entered the Marines, I had a tattoo that they considered that I shouldn't have had, and I still got in.
Well, like I said, this is Army recruiter.
And
I thought Marines and law enforcement, you just can't have tattoos below your elbows, right? Or something.
Well, the newest one though, I sent it to you though, and yes, you're right. I've had one person point out, that's a Nazi symbol. I'm like, no, it's a symbol of Bavaria, you piece of shit. But
yeah, it.
I can't remember what Sturgill had on his arms was mainly demons.
The Alpine flower.
Edelweiss.
Yes.
Edelweiss.
Yeah.
Yep.
I actually have Edelweiss. I have a piece of Edelweiss dried in a picture here. My mom did.
Just for a minute there, I thought you were going to say you had an Edelweiss tattoo, but okay.
No, mine's a unicorn.
No, I got tattoos. I even got Winston Churchill on my arm. Not his face, his quote. I have nothing to offer.
Oh, good, because if you had his face there, you would have to start working out more.
You have to get it stretched.
I need a bigger arm.
Hey, I used to be much bigger than this, okay? It's, you shrink when you bust your spine.
Yeah, well, stop doing that.
It seemed like a good idea.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, let's actually do some history questions because God knows there must be some of the 600 emails I haven't actually.
Well, I sent you. You should start with the ones I sent you because they were from Discord.
What happened last time I started switching screens on this computer?
You nuked it.
Yep. So what I'm saying is,
well, here I'll do it this way.
No break.
There you go.
I have it all written down.
Ask him to him.
There's no breaking.
Okay. Yeah, but then you want me to read, and I don't do.
Yes, yes. I wish for you to read.
All right.
Oy
Whoops,
vey.
that's the wrong thing. Okay.
Thank you, Peter. You're correct.
All right. So let me see. Well, we'll go back to the. Well, this one was in chat. So, is
Yes.
Tino planning to go to? Now, I can't pronounce anything other than Canadian, so deal with it. I can't. Hill Pens. I can't.
Why
All
don't you
right.
send them to
I,
me?
I see where this is going.
Yeah, I can't pronounce half this stuff. So you want me to
Highlight it, and I'll be.
here? I'll just do this. I'll do this. Copy, and then you don't need to switch. Paste. There's the first one. It's in private chat.
Oh, private chat. So you have to leave.
in StreamYard.
All right. Hang on. Good.
Welcome to
Okay.
California.
Have I heard of IG Farben's nuclear shells on the Carl Gustav cannon? From what I found is that they try to fire a nuclear shell into Sevastopol and detonate an underground weapons bunker 1 mile underground. I have not heard of that, and well, I'll tell you, I don't think they did, because much advanced as they were, the Battle of Sevastopol was 42, I believe, and they were just not there technology wise. I know that they did some air fuel bombs. They may have worked on. They were delivering the air fuel bombs of the day was coal dust, oxygen, coal dust, and then an ignition system, and that could be delivered through a bunch of rockets like the Nebelwerfer. They had a Nebelwerfer system where the first rockets would be fired. They would then not detonate, but they would release all the coal dust in a cloud over an area, and then some seconds later, a rocket that would be fired into that cloud and then ignite it, and then the whole area would explode, like typical coal dust. And if you don't know, that is very explosive. It could also be fueled in through as a gas. It could be filled into a void, into a room under pressure, and then that will be ignited and blew up, which, from what I have heard, was used in Sevastopol. But for nuclear, I'm still under the impression that several nuclear devices were tested in late 44, 45, but the delivery system was not in place yet. But the technology was. I think they did, although certainly. And also, IG Farben was a chemical facility. They would have to have other people work on this. So I don't think they did. I would love for them to stop banging around in the Ukraine so I can actually go there, and because I really wanted to look at Sevastopol for myself. Also because
Well, granted, if it's
the book is coming out, the Sturmgeschütz book. We're going to get that on the website somehow. And one of their little tricks was they actually went to Sevastopol for a day and then went back again. So, and I'm going to try to do the documentary and trace that unit's battles to and from, which will take me into Russia. Speaking of Sevastopol, but nuclear there, probably not. I really, really don't think so. Also, just firing that from a cannon was really delicate.
Even the United States had problems firing it from a cannon.
Yeah, we had that little
with Atomic Annie.
Yep.
We had the Atomic Annie, and then we had that little, not Will Rogers. What is it called? That little thing.
It was Little Will, yeah, but
the little rocket that looked like
Crockett.
a big Davy Crockett.
Yeah.
Davy Crockett, Willie Rogers. Come on.
Same thing, Little Willie.
Exactly, Little Willie. All right,
missiles in the brain.
In the season 2 premiere, would Dnieper have access? Dibna, DIB, or Dibna have access to neutrons? It would make sense if they were used in Russia and the lack of radiation. Now, that's one thing that's really interesting about what the Germans apparently were working on. What he had access to, I didn't. You didn't put no year. What the Germans were working on specifically as was a low radiation nuclear device, and I think it was apparent in some way to them that radiation would be a problem, or at least could be considered an issue. That was a conversation that was ongoing. That's ongoing in parallel at the time of development, which makes it really interesting because it makes them. It seems that they have thought this further than the Americans did at the time when they were developing theirs, because certainly the Hiroshima bombs, you couldn't just march in there because everything was radioactive and everything had to be cleaned up. And the Germans have thought that one through with a smaller tactical nuclear weapon with a low radioactive fallout, so specifically so they could have their soldiers enter the area a short time after detonation, after usage. And what makes that double interesting is, from what I understand, the Russian military, who seized a lot of these plans and got a lot of this information, because they got to the second tier scientists afterward as well, that went to work for the Russians, like von Ardenne. Not von Ardenne certainly wasn't a second tier scientist; he was first rate. But he too must have been privy to this information, and the Russians have since developed nuclear weapons. And we keep talking about the Ukraine and tactical nuclear weapons being used. The Russians have specialized in low radiation nuclear weapons and have them as tactical weapons today. And that seems to have a lineage that dates back to the German research of the war, which I don't have the impression that the U.S. that as an option for the longest time. I don't know if any of you guys know more about the current or the past U.S. nuclear arsenal, but I don't see a whole lot of that sort of tactical devices in our arsenal. Do you guys?
Well,
Maybe.
with
Not enough to
I know
actually-
Pershings were all destroyed because that was part of the SALT II treaty.
Yeah, but the Pershing was a regular nuclear warhead, right?
Yeah.
I like the crazy new cruise missiles you can just drop out of a C-17. Now those are kind of crazy.
Well, you can drop an entire pallet full of them. Actually, that's
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah, just drop 45. No big deal.
And they're smart. They're reactive. It's amazing.
Yep.
You know, I don't believe there was a different warhead for a Pershing II.
And while we're kicking that around, I'm going to go. The next question is about the amounts of concrete that was poured on the dome of Le Coupole in one go. Because I did say, and I thought about it when I said it, that when they built the bunkers, they poured the concrete in one go so it could harden together. And the dome of Le Coupole was 100,000 tons, something exceptionally almost unfathomable, which would make pouring that much cement and concrete in one go practically impossible, because you would have to have a continuous pour of that much cement, continue run of trucks. I have video footage of some of the very large bunkers they built for the Atlantic Wall, where they literally had cement trucks and cement mixers lined up, backed up in hundreds of trucks, lining up to dump them into a circular dispenser that would pour in the cement and just have it continuously going. So even if it was layered, there wasn't that many layers, and it was done very. Let me hold on to that question, because I know that some of the very large structures was done in one pour for a wall or a siding or a roof. But you're absolutely right. 100,000 tons in one go, it seems almost impossible logistically to have a continuous pour that would take days and days and days in itself.
Didn't they actually try to do that with the one of the buildings on the Atlantic Wall, and it failed? Didn't they try to do a continuous run and the building failed miserably? It like cracked near in two.
Yes, I heard something about that as well. But what I'm going to do is when I get out there, since um, Lawrence, who's the museum curator of Kabul, he has promised me a tour of the dirty, messy, muddy, horrible tunnels. I will actually talk to him about that because he should have all the papers. Although there's a lot of papers on the Kabul they don't have on the construction of a lot of these. And I'm thinking, well, all this was done central planning out of tool headquarters in Berlin, and the Russians probably have those as well. They found documents for Ibn Amal, the Belgian fort. They found them in the Russian archives because when the Germans took it, then they captured the plans. Plans went back to Berlin for being looked at, and then eventually the Russians took Berlin and all the plans. So it's everything the Germans, one way or another, had control over. Copies of that, if it wasn't destroyed, will be found in the Russian archives. And it's interesting when Speer took over. He mentioned sometime he had a huge problem with logistics and the party and infighting and all that nonsense and bureaucracy within the construction of the Todt organization and construction as a whole in the Third Reich, because everybody was infighting for everybody wanted their thing. Yes, we have to give up for the war effort, but we also have to build our villa. And he kept cutting corners of the bureaucrats. And at one point, the headquarters where they had all these bureaucratic notes was bombed and destroyed, which, according to Speer, was a great advantage because for a little while the party couldn't buck him with anything because all the papers had been destroyed, so he could get on with working. Speer's book is, and I will post it as an audiobook. I'll start posting audiobooks on the sites of the ones that are interesting because it's one. Well, first of all, it's like 1,000 pages or something insane. So listening to it it's a little dry, but it's also a book. Like we always talk about books of military history and history in general. We have to just keep an eye on why this book was written, who wrote it, when did he write it, what was his personal agenda with writing this book, because he, and honestly, self-preservation. I'm not going to blame anybody who was a diehard Nazi during the war and changed his mind and blamed everybody else in 1945 May when he found himself alive, trying to stay alive. I don't blame him for blaming all the dead dudes. Because in the word of self-preservation, hey, it was everybody else who did it. Had nothing to do with it. He did it. He's dead too. He did it too then.
Dead men tell no tales.
I was never a Nazi. I would like to have a job for the rest of my life. I get it. I absolutely understand. And if anybody from the Third Reich in the leadership had survived and come out and written a book that would counter the mainstream narrative as it was hammered together by the Allies, it probably would never have been published anyway. So we just have to remember when we read these books who wrote them, who approved them, and why. Is Tino planning to go to the Hell Peninsula north of Danzig? Yes, I am. And I am bringing my sample beacon with me. And if any of you know why, you'll know why. If you don't know why, I'll tell you. It'll going to be a surprise. October 3rd, 1944, they detonated the Sinser affidavit that you've all heard of. Pilot Hans Sinser, German pilot, he testified before the Hiroshima explosion. He was after the war. He was captured and testified to the Allies that he was flying his Heinkel from the Hell Peninsula when he saw 8,000 feet up, mushroom cloud. The instruments in his plane malfunctioned, had trouble steering the plane. He saw lightning and continuous explosions within the cloud, and it reached high up in the sky. This was 44 October, and he described basically a nuclear detonation in his testimony to the British as a POW before the Hiroshima bomb was ever dropped, which leads a whole lot of credence to what he said, because I mean, it couldn't just have been a regular explosion, because he described clearly the flashes within the cloud. and that I have the locations of where that is quite possibly have emanated from. So that's why soil samples. Also, that area has been bought up by Russians, I believe. I guess maybe they can't investors who are going to build something on it, but that seems to be on hold, which might be in our favor. So I can go dig up some soil samples. Also, soil samples from Jonastal. We actually have a lab, which shall be right now unmentioned. The guy who runs the lab, the chemical lab, he is in Germany, who is a fan and follower of ours, have volunteered to test all our samples. So now we know where to take all the strange things that I find from different places.
Who?
Yep, and I can actually get some specific, and I'm sure there's another place in Jonastal where, well, you're also not allowed to go, but somehow I'm still trying to get an official visit into Jonastal, and also a nice gentleman have written he knows some people who have various drones, LIDAR and GPR. We have to go fly over Jonastal, the valleys, the surrounding areas with a GPR drone, something that will reach deep enough, or some sort of measurement. I don't even know. LIDAR is just not going to do it, because we need to see 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, God knows how deep, meters underground. I found all these places, sort of like the Kamla map. I have all these locations, and you go there and you look at it, there's nothing. Well, now there's a field. So whatever was there is underground. So we have to be able to look underground, and we look at the huge areas. We can't GPR unit over there, and a GPR unit handheld is just not going to be deep enough. We need something that'll go deeper. So we need to look at drones and or satellites. I know in the military we have various technologies to look for underground dumps. I don't know if I can borrow one of those, but if there's a private satellite that offer this, it's definitely something that we'll look into, and possibly we'll have to do a GoFundMe. Let's see how it goes with the memberships on the website and sales of bits and pieces if we can get it together. I'm hearing ranges of $3,000 a day, something like that, which is not insurmountable if they can do what we need it to do. If it can scan 20 feet on the ground, this is not going to be enough for what we need. So I'm looking at technologies, and I'm getting some good pointers through the website, or good suggestions of companies to talk to about this. Anyway, speaking of, oh, right. So yes, Help Peninsula. Yes, absolutely. That is a big part of why I'm going to Poland. I'm also going to look around there. I'm going to look for Emil Klein's, no, not Emil Klein, I'm sorry. I'm going to look for the rocket test facility, or the testing building for the Kammerstab that was out that way as well. Just don't know what the building looked like, but I know what town it was in. So I'll go find some old Pole and ask for where were the Nazis. Sure, I'll get a sensible answer. And do you sometimes think you're in a rabbit hole? Yes, I live in Los Angeles. Yes. I mean the whole German atomic bomb thing, because some people think it's just a rabbit hole. It's interesting because there are some very intelligent people and doctors and professors, and I have given up on my doctorate in military history because what do I do with it? There's some very, very, very smart people that have dug into this, and they all hit the same wall of you can't get this information. So everybody has been piecing together individual documents, statements, and all of the statements, they're all pointing in the same direction. But there is an information stop. Here, the American Archives, British, German, where we just, of things that we just don't talk about. And in that sense, it is a rabbit hole because we keep digging for more circumstantial information and more supporting documents, but the actual documents, the actual what happened, seems to be locked away somewhere. And it's not like they don't exist. The rabbit hole is, we know they exist because it's like the CIA's last email to me on Kamla. We're not confirming or denying that we have information on this, but you can't have it if we have any. That we're not confirming that we have. The doublespeak, but the reason for the doublespeak that they have more, but they're not going to show me. They're just not going to admit that they have more. The thing is, the way the legal system works in the state, we still have one. They can't have something and just plainly say we don't have any, because if they didn't have any, then they would just say that we don't have any more. Sorry, they're not saying that. They're saying we may or may not, but we can't confirm. That means they do have legally. That's the way they have to respond. So we know the documents exist, and what lends the most credence to the German nuclear program is the fact that all the documents are classified. Because if there was no, I don't want to quote the cucumber in the White House, but if there's no there, then there's no there. Then you open your file door. Sorry, I had to.
What?
Yeah, that's definitely a potato, but.
Yeah, it's like, I don't want to quote Mr. Potato Head, but that is what lends the most credibility to the fact that there's something there, is that they keep saying there's not, but you can't see the documents. Oh, there's a location we will to see. No, you can't see that, but there's nothing there. And it's the same everywhere. And then the circumstantial things was, well, everywhere we want to go where the suspected things were tested, magically there springs up a natural preserve that you can't dig or disturb. In all of them, not next to it or the woods over, but right where we want to dig. All of them are turning into natural preserves by magic, and they're all babysat by the same government agencies, whether they're Austrian BIG or the German BIG, or the military is still sitting on it, or they'll put a bunch of barbed wire around it and say, no, it's full of explosives and you can't go in there, which is also BS. But it remains the same. We cannot get to see it. And so the statement that it doesn't work, that there's nothing there, just doesn't hold up anymore. And there's so much circumstantial, and there are photos that squeeze out here and there of places we're not allowed to go or allowed to see again. Well, there was something there. And it's a rabbit hole because we don't know where it ends. It ends with of all dying of old age and the next generation not caring, or it ends with finally somebody relents and gives up the documents. I am determined to find out what happened to Kamla, because that's the rabbit hole that I believe he ended up in America. I know that he was in contact with Dulles, killed him, or he lived as a grand old man over here. I can accept either. However, I would like to see the interrogation reports. That's just that simple thing. And I know that there's a lot of things, not a lot of things makes Dulles look very patriotic American when we dig into it. I know the CIA don't like, nobody wants to besmirch the name of the founder, but it's an important enough deal historically that it doesn't change the outcome of the war, but it changes our perception of who and how and what. In reality, it doesn't make any damn difference. The world will not change if we found out that the Germans tested a nuclear bomb or two during the war or not. It's not going to change any of our lives. I'm not going to get an extra free milkshake because of it. So,
you do get it for me. I want a banana one.
Well, see, I'm not going to get that either, even if I find it. But we want to know for a whole lot of reasons. And the problem is, and I think what the real issue is that World War II sort of began because of business interests, money, and banks. I'm working on I'm trying to break down all the money. There was money flowing from America to German industry throughout the entire war, despite being at war. It didn't go directly. It went, amongst others, through the Bank of International Settlements, which was set up after World War I. Guess who was on the board? Alan Dulles, Hjalmar Schacht, the governor of Bank of England. So here you have the warring nations meeting every month doing business throughout the entire war. Now, it leads to some more questions that why did American, British soldiers have to die, or French or Russian for that sake matter, or Germans have to die so somebody can continuously make money from it? And I think the recipe and the lineage of those businesses and that money continues till today. And I think that might be part of why a lot of this is stuff they don't want to talk about, is because we start pulling that spring. If we start pulling that string, we'll end up, Kennedy, 9/11, Ukraine. It's the same bunch of people that makes money from the same poor dudes who are dying in the field for the same reason, and none of them are very good reasons. And I think if that's a good reason to keep this stuff quiet, because if people really started waking up to reality, which is obviously not going to happen anytime soon, they would see that a lot of the crap that they've been going through and the crisis are all man-made. No revolution happened organically. No war happened by accident because one man decided so. And I think that's the string we end up pulling if we follow this rabbit hole. And then it becomes a whole thing for a lot of people. All right. Am I going to do a video on the Fulda Gap? Yeah. Yes, I think. What do you think?
I can say I've been there.
You've been there?
Yeah.
Well, then I'll ask you, is there anything left to see as remnants of what happened there?
I'm not for sure.
You're not sure, but you were there.
Yep. I was
You're
there in
killing.
'83. I was
Okay.
up there when I was up there, it was still live. Because I went up there with my ex-husband and my father-in-law, and we went up there to see his other son. He was in what second ACR?
I mean, I would want to visit some of the interesting battlefields. It's hard not to.
I mean, it's wild because
hard
you could stand up there on the gap and you could see a complete town that was built, but no one's there. That
I
was
like
the
those
wild
towns.
part. And
I like towns with people who weren't there.
then kind of behind, I guess that's where they had the barracks and everything because I've seen East German and Russian soldiers there. Although
I mean, I was there for Area 1. There's a lot of the West Wall, Siegfried Line that went through there, and there's a couple of headquarters, underground bunker headquarters that was built near there. And there's a missile storage facility for nuclear weapons that I also did. We haven't gotten there. I'm trying to do the Amazing Fort series sort of in some sort of order, working our way up through now we're to World War II and then to the Cold War. I may just do one Cold War fort because it's cool, and then just throw them out there as we go. Depends a little bit, but there's some stuff underground, but I never actually looked at the battle build up. I would love to go to do these places, but then I would have to bring a metal detector with me because I would feel like an idiot walking those woods without it. And I did a lot of West Wall bunkers. Started editing yet because I was waiting for a few more books. But the West Wall is a lot more than we've been told, because we've always been told, oh, we just rode right through it, and it's actually really interesting. Also because they started building bunkers and underground storages there practically before Hitler even came to power. You gotta remember the West Wall facing France, they started building that in 1924. So that was not just a Hitler idea. This was just the pragmatism on the part of the German army. The French were building, the Germans were building. They all knew there was going to be another war. It just so happened that Hitler was the guy that got to pull the chip out of the hat, and he's the one that got to run it. And then, of course, after the war, especially under Merkel, they have destroyed over 20,000 bunkers facing France. There's still quite a few left, but 20,000 bunkers, that's almost unimaginable how you can. A lot of them has been covered up, paved
Well,
over.
Merkel destroyed so much history that
Yeah.
y'all shot.
Yeah, it's just a shame, but that's just how it was. So that's why it's hard to. I visited a lot of them to try to put, and also the bigger underground with tunnels and forts, a little bit like the East Wall. Working on a series for that, but I'm trying to actually explain what it really was. So anyway,
Well, it's like in Heilbronn, there are salt mines. And
yes. Oh, there's a lot of stuff in those.
During the war, they had people working in those salt mines building things.
Yes.
And they came from Dachau.
Yes.
So that would be interesting to go and look at. Well, especially for me, because I lived there for over a year. But I didn't know that there were salt mines. And it's like in Pershing, if most Germans knew that the actual Pershing warheads were stored on the cast site and not somewhere else, they'd probably have a cow.
I mean, what I would love to do is start looking at some of those mines that existed during the war and suddenly didn't exist after, because it's not like we don't know a whole lot of, like Woodman, he said they hid a lot of stuff, and a lot of it was hidden in mines throughout, and some of them were smaller, obscure mines. Because when we talk about the Austrian lakes, I'm not a big fan of the concept that they dumped huge amounts of gold and important things into the big, deep Austrian lakes, where we can't retrieve stuff from there today. So in 1945, with the technology they knew of, there's no way for them to be able to retrieve it. And you're not going to take millions of Reichmarks of gold. They can never get it. So the stuff they hid that was important for them to get back must have been hidden in places like these, where they could actually get to them. And that's the thing. There's a lot of those mines that should be looked into. What was there in 45 and what wasn't there in 46.
I was like, who's going to put a famous painting by by whoever? Because Germans, they stole so many paintings.
I still believe
they're
that
not going to put them in a lake unless it's in a waterproof container.
I mean, I'll go.
I say I still believe that the tunnels surrounding Goering's home and stuff like that still haven't been completely explored. I'm willing to bet that there's still stuff in there that we don't know about.
I'll tell you what happened to a large part of the art.
The one down in Bavaria.
Back this guy.
Yeah.
First I was going to Jeffrey, the Cold War bunker in Denmark. I know. My mom's best friend is husband is a forester that lives right there. So I am just waiting for to go to Denmark and go see an invitation. So yes. But there's a couple other places in Denmark that I already filmed that you'll see. I'll probably do that fairly soon because it's interesting. But yes, you're absolutely correct. What happened to a lot of the art was two different things. First, art was divided up in two different categories in Germany from the 30s, late 30s, in what was acceptable and what wasn't. What was the decadent art was confiscated from all the museums all over Germany, and then from Austria, and then from Czechoslovakia, and that was put in storage.
Belgium.
Now, it doesn't mean that this is not expensive art. And all the stuff that was accepted, of course, they put that in museums, and Hitler had some, and Goering and some was Ice Chancellery, and it was on display different places. But what happened to all this so-called decadent art? It was sold. And after the war was going, it was sold through art auctions, first in Switzerland, and then when the war got going, then in South America, where all this was transported to and sold. And a lot of it was sold to American collectors, and then the money went back to the Reich. There was and we're talking very large amounts of money, and later very large amount of gold was traded for all these art pieces. So a lot of these art pieces were sold in a way through proxies that we never really knew where they ended up. And that's where a lot of the stuff that they're looking for probably went. I don't think there was that much art. I don't think we're going to find a whole lot of pictures or remainder of pictures in caves or anywhere like that. A lot of it is sitting in some rich man's house somewhere. It was bought by discreet collectors. You know how art collectors are some.
That's exactly
And
what I was going to say.
there's gemstones because some of what was it? The Hohenzollern was missing
Henry Ford.
gemstones and stuff from theirs for, tiaras and stuff like that. Okay, a tiara can be taken apart easy. They're not that hard.
We're back to the diamonds and the gold. I mean, I
Exactly.
used to be in the gold trade back in the day, and people, they would sell for scrap gold, beautiful rings and things, and all you do is pry the stone out and melt the gold down. And unless it's something really truly important to history, that's all you can do with that kind of stuff, because it was about the gold and it was about the stones, and a lot of that, of course, followed to Argentina. I don't think we're going to find a whole lot of art.
The Nazis pulled the gold out of the Jewish teeth, melted it down, and sold it.
And that went to the Reichsbank, and that went to Switzerland as well. Guess where the Goering had his biggest Swiss bank account in Davos, by the way. Don't know if there's any correlation, just saying. And interesting, on the Kamla map, the Amber Room is mentioned in code, which makes, and there's a location to look for it indicated, and that makes sense, because Kamla was one of the last people that were trusted. Although Himmler and Kamla seem to have had a significant falling out in the last month, who else to hide something like that than him? So that's another aspect to the story, which again brings to what happened to him, what happened to this information. If the information was passed on to the Americans or Dulles, then did they find it, and where is it? I mean, is the Amber Room sitting in the basement of the Skull and Crossbones Society, or is it sitting in a bank in Davos? I'm just saying.
I'm telling you, a lot of that missing art that we've been looking for is probably in Henry Ford's house.
Probably.
Remember, he was a big fan of Hitler.
Well, Henry Ford also had an anti-Semitic newspaper that he published for the Ford motor people.
Yeah, but you know what? On that, a lot of people were anti-Semitic. It wasn't particular to the Nazis at that time. It was, and there had been pogroms against the Jews before World War One, after World War One, during World War One, between
years, we know.
It's not like, I mean, I always thought that this was something that Hitler jumped onto as this is a good election ploy. We need to blame someone. And, well, everyone's mad at the Jews and the communists, so we'll mix them together and blame them and win elections. Let's just look at elections today. Everybody's blaming somebody else. So I'm just saying that it wasn't just him.
No, everybody's blaming Trump.
I was a big fan of Ford as well.
Conservatives against liberals.
Whose son-in-law is Jewish, but yeah, let's not go. Yeah, right. That makes sense. But you know, it's there's stuff to look for, but I don't think art is it. See a lot of smaller individual soldiers, SS units, who have made their way back one way or another with a pocket full of gold or diamonds. They're about to go into captivity by the Allies. They buried it somewhere. If I had the time, I would look at the rally points where namely probably SS units, would stage and surrender. Where did they come from before they surrendered to the Allies, and where did they stage? And then I would look around that staging area with a metal detector. And because if I knew I was about to be captured and I had a pocket full of gold that I stole somewhere, I would bury it somewhere I could find it, go do my captivity, and a lot of them, as we know, didn't come back from captivity. That's where I think a lot of things of value could be found. Just as a thought, look around those places. That might be an interesting thing, Crystal, to look at. Where did the big surrenders take place? Because maybe we should look around. Where did they stage? Where did they come from? Where did they surrender? Because that's where I would hide stuff. Anyway, just a thought. Any other interesting questions?
I'll reiterate. The store will ship to the UK. They have a distribution center in the United States, and they have a distribution center in the UK. So
that's awesome.
So it will distribute to the UK. It'll also distribute to the Western world.
And I will, at some way, do my book that will be on Amazon. Will also come up to Amazon UK or Europe. I will physically ship them to a distribution center there, so you don't have to pay $30 bloody in order to buy a book. And with a little luck, I will release the novel. I had a historical novel that I wrote this year as well, because you know how it is writing books is. History books one thing, but if you write historical novels, or you can re-edit and reread and re-edit and reread, and it'll never be done. And at some point in time, you just have to go, it's done. 10 years ago, my novel went through the test group, and everybody came back. They loved it. It was a historical war novel, and even women loved it. All the reviews were good. I'm like, yeah, but I just want to do one more go at it. I just one more go at it. I haven't done that yet. So I'm like, maybe I should just let it go. So we shall see. And I'm not going to do that book to read, because it's long.
I still want to know if you're going to that one castle in Linderhof.
I don't think.
D-Man, you're right.
Mr. Von Braun.
Tom, how are you, buddy?
Surrendered.
The Amber Room. I think the Amber Room. Honestly, I believe we're never going to find the Amber Room, because I think they destroyed it. I honestly do.
I think you're right too.
I think there was a directive to get rid of that quick.
I mean, certainly there was probably a directive to make sure that the Russians didn't get it back, which would fall into line with it had to be hidden really well. And also, there's a lot of people and assets and things that disappear just by random bombings. I mean, you're in a war, you transport something from A to B, and your train gets bombed, and, that's it. Coming to see you soon, Tom. See if we can set up a date with all these interesting Austrians. So what do we got? I'm just taking questions. This will be the time to ask questions. Henry Ford was into eugenics.
The United States was also into eugenics, period.
Eugenics,
that's what they did from family planning.
I mean, it started in the very late 1800s with euthanizing alcoholics and criminals. This again was something. It's an interesting story to tell for those who really give a damn. But again, it has little to do with the Nazis. They just jumped onto it, and it seems to be those like Robert. Every time you go to the hospital, you just make sure you don't sign the wrong cross.
Yeah. Try not to mention how much things hurt. Yeah, that's usually the way it goes.
I'm not allowed to go to the hospital anymore.
Yeah, but you're in America. They're not going to put you to sleep like they do up in Canada if you're having a bad day. They're talking about the MAD program in so many ways.
What was that woman's name? Margaret Sanger, that was doing Planned Parenthood back in the 1900s, 1910s, 20s. And was mainly looking into doing eugenics in the African American population. And that was up in New York City. Up in Harlem, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I heard another one we're not talking about. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm just curious about how much gold we can actually find. Could you do a full episode on the armory at yesterday's fort? Yesterday's fort, Jeff. I need more information. I have not heard of it. Anybody? Alrighty.
Not ringing a bell for me.
Well,
Jeff,
not ringing
tell
a
us
bell
more
for me.
about yesterday's fort. It would be. I mean, I would love to just to go to more armories. And sorry, I'm just looking at a guy with a sword outside. Oh well, I'm in LA. These things happen. And we wonder why Americans are armed,
Welcome to California.
What the?
and that's why we're armed.
That's why I have a shotgun.
Well,
I
I have
got
four.
four sidearms like right in front of me right now.
I got my
So I
9mm over here.
I can pull it out
I,
the sword. If I can get to it.
when will you visit my country? Jansen, Norway, Sweden. Remind me. I'm sorry. I think, like I said, the trip in the spring will be Austria. Will be Czechia, Austria, Switzerland. Probably do some border forts, maybe both Swiss border forts and National Line border forts. Germany, Poland, hopefully Hungary and Slovenia. Of course. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm coming up through Holland and Belgium that way as well. Anyway, there's a couple of things I don't know if they'll. Well, yes, actually, I did get an invitation to some tunnels in Holland, so yes, we'll go there. There's also a couple of forts I need to do some more on.
Isn't there a fort in the Swiss Alps? Well, German Swiss Alps that Himmler had built.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever? I'm trying to. Have you ever been to that one, Tino?
I haven't even heard of it. The only thing Himmler had, well, he had built a nice house for his mistress and their children, but I did not know he had built a fort up there. He had rebuilt some, had taken some over. I still would like to see the what is now today a NATO school, Bad Tolz. Does today's Germany have nuclear weapons, or is it under NATO? Germany have nuclear arms, I believe, but Germany is in NATO, but they're still under German control, I believe. Right.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, I haven't kept up with what the modern German army is doing, except very little.
Yeah.
No, when Pershing was pulled out by the United States and Germany, Pershing was also pulled out of Germany also by the Luftwaffe, because we trained the technicians at Redstone Arsenal. I was 2 classes behind one, and
I know we had Americans had nuclear weapons on.
Because they hadn't gotten their Pershing 2s yet, I believe. They still had Pershing 1A. But the SALT Treaty carried Pershing 2 and Pershing 1A. And they were all fired. They took them near my house in Texas and fired all the engines, crushed them, destroyed all the the launchers. Excuse me. They also took all the GNCs, destroyed them, dismantled all the warheads, and destroyed every bit of Pershing.
All right, because I know in the late '90s, early 2000s, when I was training with the dudes at First Corps out in Stuttgart, some of those dudes were nuclear troops, and they had American nuclear weapons on German bases. I know that. I don't know if it was one of those things that was publicly admitted to or not. That's a little Germany is a little weird when it comes to that. But so all right, so yeah, I guess I could see why Germany would get rid of anything fun.
Because if I'm not mistaken, all the Pershings that Germany had, but we controlled the warheads,
Yeah, I know.
went back to the States to be destroyed. I believe. I would have to do, but I'm pretty sure it did happen because the only Pershings left are in museums, and they can't fire anything on that thing. It's full of concrete. They took
Yeah,
all the
I mean, there's a
accelerant
lot
out
of
and everything else, and it's all concrete.
So
there's
you
so
got a
much
couple.
interesting stuff sitting on the old German bases, and I really would like to see. And yes, there was a haunted place as well that there's some interesting stories that we talked about last year. It's about gaining access, because when it's on actual bases or government properties, it's a little hard to get to look at. But they're still sitting out stuff out there if you don't want to talk about it. I had a thought. Something completely different. In March 19-ish, there is the Bataan Death March Memorial March. It's a marathon march through New Mexico, through the White Sands Missile Range territory. And I don't know if it's military only or everybody can volunteer. I'm trying to find out because I'm volunteering, and I have put it out to everybody in the guards around me who wants to go, and we could make in a California appearance. I have so far not received any feedback from anybody.
I
Um,
had heard rumblings about that, but I didn't know when, where, what. It just heard it being talked about.
if I'm not paddling out to Europe at that particular time, which I hope I can just not do, I want to do also because it's on the White Sands, and I would love to have a chance to go through that and see what's left there.
It is March the 19th, 2023, live in person, Bataan Memorial Death March.
Yes.
March the 19th through the 26th is the Bataan Memorial Death March virtual edition. I'm on the website.
Virtual edition?
Yeah.
I'm not going to comment on that, but we are walking on the 19th, right? We're not walking from the 19th to the 26th.
I mean, what is this going to be?
I believe it's just the 19th.
Good, because it doesn't take you more than 4 or 5 hours to walk a marathon.
I'm just saying. I mean, if it's virtual, what am I supposed to do? Go get a Peloton and walk on it, or what?
I don't even know what that means, but it sounds like somebody with too many face masks came up with that in a low oxygen environment. And yes, Fort Drum. I will go to Fort Drum. I will go to the Philippines.
I put the website in chat.
You will also notice one thing that will not be sold in the store is face masks with Lost Battlefield. Will not be sold. Just saying. I vetoed this. Exactly. Philippines. I will be going to Philippines because my buddy from Game of Thrones, he lives out there, and
if they ever did force you to that you must sell face masks, we'll just sell one with you doing this.
Oh, that's a damn good. Which is incidentally the highest selling biker ring at this point.
Yeah, that'll work.
But anyway, as I was saying, yes, I will be going to the Philippines because my buddy lives out there, and I'm just waiting for them to stop all their flu nonsense so I can actually go and be free and do whatever the hell I want to do, including diving on.
For me. You've got a photograph to get for me.
Huh? Oh yeah, by the way, if any of you guys see something in one of the episodes that's a really cool screenshot that you think this will be great for a mug or a mouse pad, send it, because I think I've been promised Robert that I would go through some of the episodes and screenshot out for a couple of months now, and obviously that's a stalling, slow moving process. Face masks are for dogs. I don't think dog's not giving off anyway. Howdy, y'all. And so anyway, so yes, there's that, and I will probably go out to visit Fort Bragg because I need to talk to some of the Rangers about some of the things that happened around the Macy Battery in 1944. Also, I don't know if they have a museum out there. That'll be interesting to visit, but that's a thought. So there. And anyway, any other interesting, fascinating questions? But yes, do let me know about that museum there that we haven't heard of, and keep the suggestions coming of where, what. Now you know sort of where I'm going, and like I said, I figure Norway, Sweden, possibly Denmark. I don't know. Denmark is I don't really go that often, except to maybe buy food. And the British Islands will be in this hot summer, better weather. And hey, I mean, I would love to see if the War and Peace show is going to be on this year, and then go to that. Go up to Beltring. That would be cool. So yeah.
When are we going to Wurzburg?
Anyway, what are you going to? Huh?
When are we going to Wurzburg?
As soon as I can go with you.
Oh, well,
I know
that's easier.
Wurzburg very well.
I've still got to get a passport.
I mean, I lived in that area 3 years. I tramped all over the place from there, Kitzingen, Schweinfurt.
Jeff on the this one. Well, they're all worth seeing because they're massively interesting in construction. There's the ones in France that are that are interesting. One I would love to see with a diving gear is the one in Hamburg. Understanding is those 3 submarines inside when they blew it up, and there's still some access to get in there. That I would actually like to see up close, but that might take a little bit of work. The one in southern France, there's in Norway as well. There's some subpens. All of them are in use, in civilian use in various ways. The one I went to in this is where I'm going to say, I hate to put it that way, but the one I did up in Bremen, the Valentine bunker, well, you're going to see more in my video from there than you will see going there. But it's still a massive big thing. Greece would be interesting. I saw a very interesting place from Greece. I saw a picture of the tour organization logo hammered into a bunker or something in Greece, which means they built in Greece as well. Of course, they did build everywhere, but I just don't know what they built. And that's a whole different venue that I never looked at. Italy is definitely on the drawing board as well for some of the underground stuff. Oh, thanks, Sven. I know they blew it, Sven. I know they blew it up, so it's not there. I'm still there's remnants of ruins, but okay. So big hangar. Oh, god damn it! Supposed to be in concrete. Of course, they destroyed it. Thanks, Sven. Thanks for the bad news. Damn it. Oh well.
I'd still like to go
Germans.
up underneath the tunnels in Giebelstadt, going out to the airfield.
You remember? I think who sent me that photo of that plane that was sitting in what was Czechoslovakia on the runway, sitting in the hole. I think that was I think I got that from England, and we all say, well, that's just the end of the runway. They were sitting in there. I keep looking at that picture, and that plane was sitting over a hole, and I keep thinking missile silo, so one way or another, and I posted it on the Patreon quite a while ago. We chatted about it quite a bit, and I just keep thinking, this is no, it's a platform. It's a shadow, and I've been looking at it. I'm going to go there to that airport. It was where a lot of the German experimental planes flew from. It looks so much like a missile silo hole that the plane have collapsed into the hole, and it's sitting in. It broke inside the hole. It's not a shadow. There are actually parts sticking into that hole, and there's no reason why ever there'll be a hole that big at the end of a siding of a run platform. That's one of the things we're going to have a look to. Well, I guess I got to back to Scotland as well. Speaking of seeing Jeff there, and of course I'm going to go back to Jonas Tal. Instead of fill the hamburg with sand before blowing pens up. I thought they just blew them up. I actually didn't know when they did it. I saw photos of the destroyed structures of the submarine pens with submarines in them that looked newer than World War II. That's why I was wondering. Oh, maybe I should write Elon Musk and ask if he's got a drone or a satellite that can spy on the German government. I'm sure he would love that.
Probably already is.
But anyway,
toys.
So I'm not seeing any more questions.
No, we see.
Oh, Paul shows up, and now we're all leaving.
I got one for you.
Yes.
You gonna make it to World War II days in September?
Offhand, I don't see why not.
It's at the end of
Probably should. Yeah, probably should.
Yeah.
So before we get out of here, Tino, I should I'll reiterate, if you're a paid member, please get with me on Discord so I can give you your membership thing in case we ever do a private screening in Discord. Also, any pictures or anything like that you want to send, you can either send it to Tino's main email or you can send it to info@lostbattlefields.com. I check that one daily. So anything that I see in there, I'll pass on to Tino. I check
my email monthly
as much as I can. And and then the store is there.
I keep up with Facebook.
Yeah. Crystal does the writing of the newsletter. I get it shipped out to everybody, and then she handles Facebook. I handle the Twitter and the Discord and the website and the store and everything else I'm voluntold for that week. And then, that's why I'm
or whatever else the Canuck hands me to do.
Yeah.
Or whatever I hand Machine to do.
Oh, speaking of, you guys could also post photos of interesting things on the Facebook Lost Battlefield page.
Yep.
Just saying.
Well,
and I still need another 150 people to sign up for my road, so I can actually get that monetized for the movies. Because all that goes straight to Lost Battlefields.
Didn't we just hit 10,000 on Lost Battlefields Facebook?
We did.
I think
is any of it not hating, threatening death mail?
No.
Okay, good.
No, after I took care of them, I think they wisened up.
I mean, it is what it is. I'm
saying one of those guys, I'm on LinkedIn, and he went and he's following me on LinkedIn now. And I'm like,
okay. I mean,
I'm not worried about it. They start with me. I mess with them.
No, but
link to my road is in the chat.
Well,
I mean, I know it's
Machine and I are the pit bulls.
It's still a source of contention for me because I thought I explained everything quite well, and the way it's been presented is not entirely true. And what is true was 20 years ago. I mean, if I had been a rapist or a murderer, I would have been out of jail 15 years ago, unforgiven. So headshots and incorrect uniforms, come on. I thought I did enough to make up for that. But anyway.
Well, I told them they needed to pull their head out of their duffel bag, but I used a different word.
Speaking of movies, uniforms, and such like that, you got one of these in your, you got a couple of these in your stash, don't you?
Hang on. Let me open you up. Oh, God. An old Weebly?
Nope. That's the 1931 Russian. That's an Nagant.
Oh, the Russian. We
like
have one. I have one, and resemblance of blanks for it. I think we had it in Brothers War.
Yeah, I thought I saw one, but I didn't know if that was actually a new collection or. I've got Russian stuff. I did have a Webley, but somebody really wanted it really badly, and I was hurting for money, so they got a Webley. But
on Fox, Ontario, Canada, Cam on the other side. I have not been up there, so I do not know. But I know there's some forts and stuff. What do the Canadians say to this?
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff up here, but it's usually locked down or.
Well, if there's anything we now that I think I'm allowed to visit Canada.
Thank you, machine.
All right. I have finally surrendered and succumbed to my concealed carry is going to be a shield.
We don't even have to get concealed carry licenses in Alabama anymore.
Great. I mean, I hear I have to. I have for all the rest of the country, but for California, I needed one. And I've been kicking around what to carry, and I just think a Glock 19 is still too bulky.
No.
The 26 has a horrible grip. The 43 I'm not allowed to buy here. So the only thing that was actually comfortable was this method.
Trying to get us kicked off YouTube.
It's what I carry daily.
Hey, the only reason why I carry my Taurus
Smith & Wesson MMP 9 Plus. It's a Shield 9.
A Shield 9. Okay, yeah. I mean, but you have the extended magazine too, right?
It's already 14 plus 1 plus my IWB holster.
Yeah, okay.
Plus my IWB that I use, which is made by Versa carries another mag anyway.
Like I said, the only reason why I carry my Taurus is it fits
by
my hand.
It's very nice, made out of water buffalo.
Warden 1911 is not a great concealed carry. You may as well have a brick.
Well,
brick is actually lighter.
I actually have it. I'm not kidding you. It's right here. I've got a. Well, I didn't bring the 1911, but I've got the big boy version of that 9mm, and I actually carry this on occasion. It's like carrying a Dirty Harry, but.
Yeah, I mean, I can carry my pistol in my purse, and I don't need it. I can just sling it and knock the hell out of somebody.
But for a concealed carry, especially for people who are not gun savvy, a revolver is really not a bad idea. For the lady friends that I know that would like something for self-protection, I always suggest a short little revolver without a hammer. Something straightforward.
Oh, like a 380.
Yeah, 350, even 357. As long as it's small, it's easily it's dummy proof.
No, keeping my 9mm. Thank you. But
we're all talking Japanese because I'm up here in Canada and you can't do none of that shit.
Say that again.
Yeah, I know. This to all you guys out there. I know everybody you kind of want, but I guess we still have here.
I mean, we still can carry hatchets, so there's that.
I mean, yeah, but we have mass stabbings everywhere. But
we can still carry hatchets.
I mean, I will say to my Canadian friends, looking at what's coming, wouldn't it be unfortunate if your house was broken into and your gun collection stolen before somebody would come and take it from the government?
Oh yeah, that happened when they did the mass. You must register your gun thing.
Yeah,
These
and what
things
is
do happen.
Register guns magically. I lost that a couple of years ago. Yeah, shit.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
happens all
I'm
the
just
time.
saying.
you were saying?
Walther PPK is not a bad gun. I have the Italian knockoff, the Bersa 380, which I carried for a while. I actually don't think the Bersa is a bad gun. It's just you keep in the back of your mind that you're carrying a half price knockoff of a Walther, and you should just stand up and
Yeah,
buy the real thing.
there's well, and the knockoff of the Beretta was European American Armory, EAA.
Yeah.
It's an
Um,
exact copy of the military Beretta.
Jeff, your wife is really cool. I'm just saying. This is Jeff's.
If I could have my preferred weapon, it wouldn't be a pistol. I want it grand.
Well, why don't
Well,
I'm
you
sorry.
my
I
carry?
want
rifles
it
are a home.
M1 Garand. I want one bad. I have always wanted one. That's what my daddy carried.
I miss my old 303.
Why should I go meet Lars in Denmark? Well, I mean, it's not. That's not even that expensive of a gun, is it? The Garand. There's plenty of those around, isn't there?
No, they're actually quite pricey.
What?
Have they gone up in price? Well, do you want the original World War II one, or do you want one of the new
Of
ones?
course, I don't want a knockoff.
But the glass fiber knockoff is not bad. I mean, and the short scout version that I had and once had to sell, sadly.
Remember, we've had this conversation. I don't collect knockoffs.
I collect stuff that is functional. If for work. For movies, I'd rather actually have knockoffs because I don't want to wreck them in a film shoot. So
This is true.
and yeah, the only thing
I even got a picture of my my other rifles in the phone. I don't think I do. Only one guy in the chat knows what I'm talking about. The teasing. He knows. He's actually fired my rifle, and he fell in love with it.
Oh, damn, Jeff, that's expensive for me.
No,
yeah,
I
no,
just
they are that
I'm gonna get one. I'm
expensive.
going to get original World War II. Yes, I would have a knockoff, but I would the knockoff would be the one I'd shoot. The World War II one would be for display purposes and the occasional shooting.
I saw the coal dust question that came in. I don't know. I don't know how big the yield of the kilotonnage was. That all depends on quite a lot of things. On the on the Nebelwerfers, the problem was they had them deployed outside Calais, expecting for the invasion. Problem with having something that is weather dependent by the coast is if it's too windy, the coal dust will disperse too quickly and not properly ignite. Oh, that's nice, little shorty. Was that an 8? No, it's a
That's a 16.
16.
That's a 16 with the dastardly collapsible.
Oh God,
Right,
I
right.
fired one of them.
Anyway, so what they did when the invasion then started is they wheeled these. They had them on German armored personnel carriers, rocket launched on the side, and I don't remember how many trucks there were. But of course, the explosion size was dependent on how many rockets they would get in the air and how many of them would ignite. Would the weather and wind have dispersed it? But they have estimated. Damn, I actually had those numbers. It was a very, very, very large explosion. To the point where, I'm going to have to look that up because I did an episode years and years ago where I had how much it would destroy. But there was a fear of the crews themselves that it was such a large explosion of the build out of the breakout of Normandy that the guys who were going to fire these would actually die themselves. That's how big it was. They were caught in an artillery attack just prior, like literally 15 minutes before firing, which was probably an ally preempted. So it never happened. But if it had, the crews had expected that the entire buildup and breakout of Normandy would be destroyed in one go. and after that didn't happen, then the program was canceled, and I think that's probably a mistake. It also worked better in warmer weather inland. It's something that will be really interesting to look into more. But air fuel bombs are a hell of a thing, even back then. Anyway, that's I will try to see if I can look up, and next time we have a chat, I'll have that information. Someone remind me. Anyway, that was the air fuel bomb thing.
What was it that I found? What was it called? Rain Tocta. I sent you a picture of it, Tino. It's a smaller missile than the V2 or V1. And
Which one?
Rain
Rheinboten?
RHEINT.
Rheinboten. Yes.
Yeah.
It's a ground-to-air missile, anti-aircraft.
Yeah. I don't know if they ever got it into production, but it was like really sophisticated.
Of course, that was one of Kamala's as well. I think they got it into production, but never used it. Some of them were used, just like the Fliegerfaust, which was a lot smaller, unguided. That was sent in rounds of 8. You actually see the famous photograph of the ruins of Berlin, of a building. You see one laying on the ground next to some other debris. And
no,
I think
Patrick, this was a different one. This was a different one from Wasserfall.
They were planning on making that in the tunnels that Kamala was working on in the adjacent mines by Mittelbau. By the way,
it's like,
but yeah, that was a real thing as well.
I think I know what the hinge is.
What is?
What the hinge is.
Oh, the hinge.
Yeah. I think I know what it is. I think it's a weapons platform for an air defense around the area. Or they were playing with a laser or some kind of plasma weapon. And that was going to be where it would be firing from. That's my idea.
I mean, we'll see.
It just looks like another one I found.
But again, we're looking at more places where we need a deep penetrating LiDAR. I think a lot of the stuff we're looking for might be found in the Richard mine that is by now collapsing and almost impossible to get to. I think in Czechoslovakia, right there on the border, not far from the Henge, because theoretically that's where Kamla's last communication saying that he was headed. And it had already almost been the crews had been dismissed at that location. The Russians were almost there, and they keep thinking, why was he going to a place like that? It was one of the deepest mines. It was extremely large. That would be a place that might be of interest, but it's now so dangerous to get in there that even Mr. Jones doesn't want to go. And if Kalviak says it's too dangerous to go, I got to listen to him because he knows. We'll see.
He goes anywhere.
I will say the Smith & Wesson M&P I'm not a big fan of. I should know because I'm carrying one. And
I'm looking at you right now.
It's got one right here. I like it. Problem is accuracy.
My eye twitch. Accuracy. I can hit lollipops at 25 yards with the 9mm.
Yeah, but not with an M&P.
That's an M&P.
Yeah.
Everything I own is M&P.
Yeah, I mean, I have the 9, I have the 45, and now I have the Shield as well.
There you go, sir.
But for I mean, it's a cheap work gun, and I mean, I can hit what I'm aiming for at work if I have to with it, but if I certainly wouldn't take it to the range. Out my Glock, I can outshoot anything with. God knows why. I never thought I liked Glock until I finally got one, and that one is.
Despise Glock. Glock is
See,
awesome.
I'll keep my Taurus.
I'd take a high point over Glock. I can't stand them.
I never liked my Glock until I got one. Do you have a Taurus 9?
No, mine's a P2222.
Okay. I like the Walther.
It fits my hand. That's the main thing I look for. If it's too big for my hand, I can't fire it.
Yeah.
Which series M&P you? Oh shit!
I have the Walther P22, and if that came in a 9, it does come in a 9, doesn't it?
It does. I've actually got the P22 Target, and I love that thing. It's awesome.
The extended barrel.
Yeah, I've got the whole kit.
I mean, that's such a. You can't miss. I carry that as concealed sometimes because you can't miss with it. And if you got a decent power 22, I mean, if you can't miss with it, you're still going to hit the hard head.
What series? Which series of the M&P are you carrying?
Oh God, I bought this one 15 years ago.
So you got like the very first series.
I think so. Yeah.
I'm ironing it.
Yep. Yeah,
I'm not going to miss either.
I didn't care for the very first series. I didn't like the way, not so much because I didn't have a problem with the accuracy. I had a problem with the way it fit my hand. I hated the way it felt, but the ones that I have are all comfortable.
Yeah, it's
like
it's
a 1911. A 1911 will not fit my hand right. It's too big.
And that's what. I don't like the Beretta 92 either. It's just
I'm trying to figure out which one that my uncle just picked up a new Beretta, but man, I can't remember which
Beretta
one.
made a 380 back in the day. That was kind of nice, but
he's
got the
9mm, and I'll tell you what, it's nice. It's really nice, but I don't remember which one it is. I'm trying to look through the text messages. He just got it.
Maybe we should do a Carcano versus Mauser test.
Hey, I got a Mosin too. We can throw a Mosin in on that.
Hell, I'd love to fire a
I have a few of those. It's always nice when you have a rifle with a metal butt plate. So
we all need to get together one day and all of us be at a damn range.
Yeah, but you know what we did? If you look at we got one that we've got the M44 too, the shortened version of the Mosin, and both of them we put the rubber pads on. We put the wuss pads on them.
I mean, I stick mine in movies with blanks. That's why it's so easy to fire bolt action rifles in movies because you don't have to do anything to them except make sure the blanks are blanks.
Right.
Modern movies, you have to. Hang on, let me up you.
See, I got a 30-06 bolt action. Best rifle I ever had was a 22 bolt action.
Huh.
That's the one he picked up, the M9A3.
Yeah. But
all right, my husband got my 9mm. I'm gonna kill him.
But definitely, I will, sir. I will fight you to the death over the Smith & Wesson stuff, though.
I mean, the 45 I liked, but it's just
we will have.
I'm almost just a little off center from mine.
I always said that one day I was going to get 2 big, huge pit bull dogs. And I was going to name one Smith, the other one Wesson.
You mean not Adolf and Seuss?
Nope.
I will
name one H&K.
And see, that's the thing.
H&K was supposed to build a weapons plant down here, and they never did.
That's nice. Bushmaster is nice. I will say with my Smith & Wesson, if I could put a lighter trigger in there, maybe different targeting system, I might be happier with it. But the problem with doing that is, I mean, I carry for work half the time. If I get into it with a modified weapon, now I have a legal issue, which is
not. That's not entirely true. You can, in fact, since it goes by the manufacturer. Since the manufacturer has made, like this one here, has the modified trigger from the factory, it is not a legal issue.
Oh, so I would have to send it into Smith & Wesson to remodify the trigger.
They'll just
Or
drop a
take
new,
it
yeah,
to a
they'll just drop a
dealer.
new trigger group in it. And I use my sights are adjustable and they're tritium. So
You know what? Since they owe me $65, $75, I will contact Smith & Wesson and see if I can't send it in and have them do that. Because that is an absolutely good point. When it's factory made, it's factory made.
yep. And from what I understand, according to what I was talking to a gunsmith buddy of mine, the first generation versus that, there's only a slight tiny difference between the trigger groups, and they are compatible. They can be switched over. And I prefer the new trigger systems anyway. I really do like the way they feel. I don't like the, you know what I'm talking about, the overly curved. I can't do it.
That's why. I mean, I would like to have got free because it's still the closest thing to comfortable. But again, Glocks, triggers, bullet in the chamber. I mean,
you can try carrying this brick right here. It's a Ruger, but it's a 1911 clone that I've modified.
Oh, Ruger made one of them. I was thinking about getting the 1911 9 mil that was made of rock arms.
Yeah,
maybe. I don't know why I would want it, but it seems reliable and sturdy, and again, it's heavy for work.
My barrel's been ported, my slide's been modified. Those cuts were not there from the factory. Put grips in, put grip slide cuts in it with the lathe and everything else like that. So this one's been highly modified, but it's like carrying a brick. It really is.
I mean, in all honesty, I should just ask Necron get the Smith the 6 hour that we got in the military now, because at the end of the year, I think I volunteered for the NCO challenge, and they're shooting, and I should probably get something as close to the Army the issue and train with it. To be honest,
yeah,
thinking about it, but because the actual issue is not, of course, not illegal.
An NCO what?
There's an NCO Soldiers Challenge. It's an annual event. All branches can compete, and all the different events, venues, shooting, burying style, command, soldiers competition. And the idea of competition, I'm on board for it. First time I heard of it was.
What is it?
The first time I heard of it was a week before the last year. I was like,
the end of March, beginning of April, we'll have Best Ranger here on Benning. Best Ranger competition.
Well, I'm too fat and old for that, but the other one I'll take my chances. Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Maybe that's actually worth going out there since they're going to go to Benning anyway. When is that?
I can find out exactly for sure, but it's free to attend.
Yeah, sorry, that's not going to happen.
Speaking of trigger modifications, if you do come this way for World War II days, we have a gun range not far from where we're staying anyway. I can take you out there and have you fire the Mosin that I got. I modified the trigger in it.
You modified the trigger on a Mosin?
Yeah.
Isn't that a little bit like putting a dress on a pig?
Well, it's like polishing a turd, but what it did was instead of having the trigger pull of a Greyhound bus, it's much lighter, much smoother. It does make for better accuracy, which is hilarious saying that about Mosin, but because a Mosin is one of those ones you just fire it and hope that big bullet hits something and kills it. That's
yeah, and still breaks your shoulder. Yes, dear.
April the 14th through the 16th is Best Ranger competition. It's going to be a lot about General Grange too, because he just passed away.
I will be in Europe at that time, and work is more important than fun. All right. Well, it's all about juggling plans, I guess. Also, I'm shooting a movie this summer.
Ooh.
which
What are we doing?
kind of.
Yeah, where are we going for the movie?
It's not a war movie. It's not an action movie. It's a very serious movie with a cast of one, and it is not me. So much for the ego that it's me. No, it's I don't want to give it away, but it's theatrical release. Hopefully, let's see if I can get that Oscar nomination again, because it's serious. It's a serious film.
50 Shades of Struckman.
57 actually.
57. Oh God.
No,
I have a picture for that.
Oh,
You know,
God.
I could share. You know.
No,
no.
no, Canuck.
But it was funny.
What was funny? I'm
Uh,
missing something here. Did I not see something?
No. Two Struckmans, one gun. Oh, that's fucking funny. I don't know why, but
You struck me.
see, now we're getting the ideas of the slogans for the T-shirts. I ordered a BAR when they were making remakes of them. I put my name down on the list for one, and they never called me. And I'm not really unhappy that they didn't call me. Like $3,500 for a remake.
How much? I don't think
$35.
so. Nope.
I had money back then.
Yeah, we all had money back then.
I'll just put that there, and then we'll see if Tina wants to share it or not. Because I'm a bastard. I'll just put that there and see if Tina wants to share it or not.
Let's not.
Where?
Why not? You've been
Where?
flashing guns for the last 15 minutes. I'm sure YouTube doesn't mind.
Where is it?
It's in my shared screen, Tina.
Oh God, no! You
I'm
I don't
sorry.
want to see it.
I am still going to put his head on Borat. By the way, it's just going to.
Oh wait.
Oh my
Here you
God, no.
No.
I just said no to this. Any questions?
Hey,
Damn it, I want
That's
to
where
see
I
it.
put down
Oh,
my
I
veto.
Canuck, I'll send you a couple photos. We're gonna put his head on Borat. He's gonna have the mankini.
No.
I was like,
No.
no.
He's gonna hate all of us by the time this is over.
I was bored one day.
You
I thought
put
it was
his
funny.
face on- you put his face on Borat, I will drive to Illinois with a 2x4. Can't
So
stand that man.
So
When
Borat
I did
photo.
when I did my very first war movie and it won some awards, we had a premiere screening and a dinner, and we were all setting up the dinner table, and I'm like, all right, so we had these. For some reason, we had black tablecloths, the paper ones. I'm like, oh, that's nice, all right. And then we had like a red runner, because that's what we had. It was like in lodge. And then a red runner, and I'm like, oh, that's like kind of nice. Yeah, so like get some white napkins. And I stood back and I look at this, black, red, and white for a war movie premiere. This is probably not the right signal to send. And it just looked like something Goebbels would have done. I'm like, yeah, no, let's just take the tablecloths off again. But yes, it's all the subliminal things. I remember back in the day, after a couple of war movies, I started getting some fan mail from Japan. It was people, include very attractive Japanese women, and they were all reenacting. At least I think that's what they were doing, because I couldn't read any of what they're writing. SS. I mean, dress SS events. So this is sending me pictures of all these little Japanese. They're all wearing dress SS uniforms, men and women. The waiters were wearing white SS uniforms. There was runners on the walls, and that was their thing. And I'm like, I don't exactly know. I don't know what they wrote, because they only wrote in Japanese.
That's weird.
And I was like, well, that's okay. but I got fan mail and pictures and stuff. And like, okay, this is just odd. But it's like they were all out silverware and everything. I'm like, okay, I hope this is venues and not how you live day to day. But I'm just saying. All my war movies, they sell really well in the Asian countries. Just saying.
Well, you are big, and never mind. I'm not going to go there.
Yes,
I'm gonna shut up.
and yes, guns are absolutely for protection and defense.
Yes.
By the way, this is not a laughing matter. Yeah, I tried, but I just couldn't get the translation right, or it scared me, and then unfortunately they disappeared. Must have been a themed restaurant. Yeah, there's the Adolf Hitler Cafe in Thailand as well, I think.
Yes,
at least there was.
I heard about that one.
Chicken place or something, yeah. Like,
Which inherently bizarre, but
Well, when you keep rewriting history, you're going to have people going to start. Opposition is going to start doing weird stuff. Mm-hmm. But
Something to do.
Anyway,
You better read your mail, Canuck, or I'm gonna kick your butt.
I'm actually going to send you some really interesting research stuff.
Who?
And
Me?
some files. Yes, you.
Yes,
there's
dear.
some there's some files I got. I got the names of the files. We're talking about art and gold and George Soros' father, and stuff for the episode about what happened to the Nazi money.
Yes, dear.
And yes, see, there you go. And then we'll send you a webcam or a computer that can hack it. South Africa, no more registry offenses. And yeah, what was the moron from Siemens I saw this morning when I woke up said he was urging a billion people to stop eating meat. Siemens says something, I stopped listening. They seem to be on the Nazi agenda some years ago as well. Could you not dictate to people anymore?
Yeah, I guess we're just going to eat mashed potatoes and yeah, never mind.
Tino, not meat, please.
Yeah,
the
because
earth
cows
would freeze before that would happen.
Cows are less than the problem. I mean, none of this is a problem. It's just, is what you're told to believe. But I just thought it was funny that was the CEO of Siemens that came out on the globalist fascists and has some stuff to say. I seem to remember what Siemens were doing between 1945. I was like, haven't you learned about not getting involved in politics?
See, I have an issue with them thinking that everybody should go vegan for many reasons, other than the fact that we are omnivores and we're supposed to eat meat in the first place, and meat is absolutely delicious. I'm actually thinking about a steak right now. But I also have this other problem because anybody who, especially the poor guys that went to battle with the Germans, they ate a lot of sauerkraut and stuff, and what does that do? It gives gas.
I don't know. I don't eat sauerkraut.
I think the vapors coming from somebody's butthole is worse than anything that could possibly be done by a cow. But
no, I think AOC thinking. Stupid bitch. Oops, I didn't say that.
Oh, we've now crossed over that threshold.
I want some venison. I want some venison grind because I want to make venison chili.
Well, speaking of that, Cal, I'm going to go back and finish that episode from Simmerswolf and see if I can't get that up for you all tomorrow, because they sort of do belong together. Yes, we have both heard of Harry Cooper. Harry Cooper, from what I saw in his newsletter, will be on the last of this month with Dark Journalist. By the way, never mind.
So that's actually
he was asking you though, Machine.
Yes, I have.
Yes.
I haven't.
Harry Cooper?
I don't need your venison chili, Jeff. I have my own.
Hey, recipe. Hang on. Who's sending venison? Is venison being sent somewhere here around?
I don't know, but I wish my husband would have went out and got a deer.
All you got to do is go to southern Winnipeg, and they'll just cross the street, and you just accidentally run them over because you're not allowed to shoot them in city for some reason.
No. Well, Scarlett, I'm guessing that you're probably being a little sarcastic here. I will tell you that my doctor have actually ordered me to eat more red meat for my health. So, hey, Bill Gates.
You don't look like you're starving any.
I mean, that's another thing that people they completely forget. Besides the fact that cows are not really endangering the environment, and we don't have the crisis that they've been whipping up. Anyway, besides not all nonsense. There's
and
a
I
reason
want that milkshake that you showed yesterday on Instagram.
Oh God, I was paying for that. I should have had a steak instead. But anyway, the different depending on where you're speaking of somebody who knows a little bit about food and nutrition, having competing in a little bit of my life, depending on where you come from and where your store history come from and your family and you come from for decades and decades, is depending on what your system is comfortable eating and adapting. If you see what happened to Asians who come to a Western country and jump on the Western Mac diet, they get fat because that's not what they're used to eating. The Eastern diet, Asian diet, food and rice, fish and rice it's healthy, but my system, from coming from a family of meat and potatoes for the past 800 years, that is it. I get anemic. I don't get enough iron. So we have to take that into account, that we actually have to eat what we have to eat for what our body wants, hereditary. And cholesterol is not really as bad for you as they say as well. Anyway, you need the best diet I ever did for a competition was fat protein, but that's beside the fact.
Well, the best way to cook a steak is, don't you? You clip its horns, you wipe its ass, and you
run it on out. Mm-hmm. Or do like my ex-brother-in-law does. He puts a steak on the grill, 30 seconds on one side, flips it over, 30
Blue
seconds
steak.
on the other, and he starts eating.
Yep, blue steak.
Nope. Nope. Can't eat no bloody steak. I can't do it. I've tried.
I prefer medium, but it depends on what kind of meat it is. That's a big thing.
It's sacrilege.
Well, I take that back. If I have a filet mignon, I'm going to eat it medium rare.
That you can do, yeah. That reminds me, I have half a lamb in the refrigerator. I need to cook for someone.
Not me.
Yeah, I know.
They're too cute to eat. I'm sorry.
What is?
I'll go back to
lamb.
Work.
Hush.
And but yes, do visit the store and keep writing us questions. Someone will answer, even me at some point. And
secondary email info@lostbattlefield.com.
Exactly. And I couldn't be moving forward without the three of you, and I appreciate everything you guys are doing. Just want you all to know that. So, and everybody else, keep watching. We are now into January, so obviously YouTube is declining again. It's impossible to win that game. So, join. Anyway, I had a little lamb. I will go have a little lamb. Actually, a big lamb. But anyway, I'm thinking about we're pot roasting it.
You should have been at my house. My Black Forest cake turned out perfect.
Hang on. So now, of course, now that I'm saying goodbye, Jim comes up with an interesting question. Do I think Oswald was involved in the Galen organization? Okay, that's a serious question. Now that we, you know what?
Galen organization.
I think here's the thing about that. Oswald went to Russia and spent time there, and married a high-ranking official's daughter, and then he went back home. He wouldn't have been able to do that without being sanctioned, funded, or having some sort of infrastructure supporting him, either the Russians. Now, there's a lot of indication in reports between the CIA and the BND or Galen's organization that obviously the CIA and the BND went hand in hand. But that also opens up questions with the communication with the Soviet intelligence and how they were connected. And I would not be surprised if they were liaisons between Dulles, Galen, and the Russians. Because there's still a way that an American citizen, a military man in the height of the Cold War, could go to Russia and come back. So whether he knew who he was in touch with, he probably didn't. I don't think he was high enough to know the bigger picture of what he was doing or who he was in contact with. But Oswald's life in Russia, it seems almost necessary for him in order to have a connection with the CIA that would run through Galen's organization. So yes, I think Oswald, by that extension, would in some way have to have been. And what that meant for the Kennedy assassination, there's every indication that the BND and the CIA had liaisons in relation to the assassination. That's all much deeper. But who was Oswald in contact with in Russia, I think would be interesting. And I think the Russians and the Germans and Dulles had more connection and contact than we've been told. I will also just point to the report of the BND and the CIA. I uploaded to both Members Area and Patreon, and Rachel was very kind to break it down in the highlights and send to me. Thank you, Rachel. That was a lot of work. She actually broke down the whole about 450 pages, and we just highlight what was of interest. I should probably post that as well because she did all that work on it. And so yeah, that points towards a deeper connection between Dulles and the Russians. But again, Galen and the BND was sort of in the middle of those two. So yes, Jim, I think there's something more to that. Yes, and they also all wanted to get rid of JFK, all of them. So everybody had that interest. Was Galen organized as the Gladio B? Now the Gladio was set up by the CIA. Well, they were set up by the CIA in Italy, also with former SS men and operatives. So again, CIA. If you're the CIA and you need something done, you pull all your subordinate and assisting or collaborating intelligence organizations around Europe. And since there's Germans involved in the Gladio, it would make sense that some of that would have been handed over or assisted by the Galen organization, although it was in the very early days of both. So yes, I could see a connection there just by it would make sense. Why do we always get good on the third hour?
I still think Ruby had something to do.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, Ruby was working for the CIA or the FBI. He was working for some organization, even the mob, that made it clear to him. And from what I understand, he had cancer, if memory serves.
He died in...
he hung himself. He hung himself in jail, and the last person that visited him was the psychiatrist that invented the CIA program, the mind control CIA program. Come on, name.
Oh God, I know what you're talking about.
Yes, that one.
I can't think of it though.
Ultra.
Yeah.
Yes. The last person that visited him in jail before he killed himself was the guy in charge of CIA mind control program, a psychiatrist. I'm just saying, you can, if you're that smart, you talk people into killing themselves before, and they wouldn't have done that. First of all, what the hell was he visiting for in jail anyway? So there's obviously a correlation. Also, you can look at the cutouts that Oswald called from and MK Ultra. Thank you. So yes, he was on the job, and he was told that I think they had expected to be able to get rid of Oswald He was supposed to have been shot fleeing the theater. That's why they slowly swept the theater towards him with the back door on the other side, so expecting him to run and not stand up and say, "I'm surrendering peacefully," so witnesses could testify to that. So yeah, I think it was all very much an intel setup, and I think even the report in the congressional report was in '81 stipulated that yes, there was more than one person about the Kennedy assassination, so it is definitively concluded that this was a conspiracy. Too bad no one seems to care much more about that. Anyway,
There's a lot of things people don't seem to care about anymore. That's for sure.
no.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that if we start pulling World War II strings, we're going to end up with 9/11, and we're going to end up in the Ukraine somehow if we follow the players and the players' tactics, the strategy, and the money.
Yeah.
And that's why they don't want to start us young. But I keep saying, and I keep putting it out to them, you have to give us something, because otherwise people are not going to stop asking. By just denying information, it's not going to keep working. So let's see who gets into the White House next, and maybe it won't be a senile cucumber, and maybe it'll be somebody who actually wants to talk about what was done. We'll see.
That's the only thing that's scary is don't know what's going to happen between now and then.
I still believe with the Russians.
Nothing good.
No, not at all. But I still believe with the Russians. Patton was right. We should have took a left hook.
Yep. Patton and what's his face was right.
Churchill.
No, not Churchill. MacArthur. Because MacArthur wanted to go through and get him in Korea.
I mean, yeah, I think it's funny how Big Mac and Patton absolutely did not want to be. It's interesting when you look at Allied generals and command, the hate amongst them was far worse than towards the enemy, any enemy. But that's some interesting books. I know David Irving wrote an interesting book about the infighting between the Allied generals. It was actually interesting. If only I could find one about the infighting amongst the Japanese.
Oh, come on! Their navy and their army loved each other.
They tried to. They assassinated each other. I mean, coming in the departmental revelries. It's just so it's staggering. It is just. I would love to speak. If any of you can find me a Japanese historian who can talk, who speaks English, I can actually interview and talk about this. I would just love to hear about the interdepartmental rivalries during World War II of the Japanese. Because
I mean, come on, Patton and Montgomery were best friends.
Compared to the Japanese, yes.
Yeah, compared to the Japanese admiral,
yeah, they were best friends.
Hey, then you don't need to look any farther than the island of Iwo Jima.
Yeah.
You mean when the Japanese Navy didn't want to side the Japanese Army?
Yes, and if they would have done so, it would have actually paused us a bit longer. But they weren't smart enough to do that. They were, swinging.
They refused to.
Yeah.
They would rather send a half-empty cargo ship than to supply the other side. The other side being the Navy or the Army or the Air Force. Navy, because the Navy wouldn't supply them. I mean,
they self-sabotage their own people. It's maddening.
Yeah. But you can see the similar thing in Germany in the construction of war materials and all the infighting between the departments. Everybody's trying to out for themselves and get their thing, and they won't support the bigger picture because they need the damn summer house built or something stupid. They were still weaving rugs in the last month of the war instead of releasing that manpower to produce weapons.
Right.
Because we need rugs when the war is done. Like, no.
Needed people in the factory, and Hitler did not want women in a factory.
Yeah, none of them wanted that. It was Speer suggested it, and eventually they sort of did. But yeah, that too. Actually, they brought it to Speer's attention that during World War One, far more women were working in the munitions factories than in World War Two, and he was convinced. Then he tried with Goering, and he said no, and Goering sent Sauer off to Hitler, and he said no, and then that was it.
That was the end of
There's
it,
just
yeah.
so many bad logistics decisions made. But
Well, and their push for technology really screwed them too, because they wanted to do all this intricate stuff. And here we're like, you know, on the Allied side of things, like you got the T-34 tank and the friggin' Sherman, and all these easily, you know, reproduced items that we could flood the battlefield with. And they're like, we're going to have 2 of these big, large tanks. They'll do fine.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And Tino, after the chat, I need you to stay in the StreamYards for a couple minutes.
fine.
I still don't understand
Private
why
show.
Hitler rushed to war so fast where he didn't have enough weapons.
Well, there's a very interesting Russian historian that wrote that the Stalin was building up on that demarcation line, and the diaries of Hoth's army when he crossed into the waded into the Russians was that he found huge amounts of buildup. On one hand, so the Russians were slowly preparing for it. Stalin had made it clear all that in speeches that it was going to happen, but they wouldn't be ready until 42, 43. Had looked at the Russian army in Finland. He'd looked at the reports back from German officers saying that the Russian equipment they had found was complete crap found in Poland. So he thought they would have been a pushover. He knew eventually war would come. He knew they were rearming, and he thought they were far easier target than they were. So the same thing, miscalculation, that he was certain that the French and the British would not go to war over Poland because they hadn't gone to war over Czechoslovakia or over the Sudetenland or over Austria. And Ribbentrop's Foreign Department had told him that the British really because half the British didn't want to declare war. They didn't want to go to war with Germany. Of course, when Churchill became prime minister, Hitler actually was sat down and quoted saying, "Or now we have a fight on our hands," because he's not going to give. He knew where Churchill stood. So there.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that, you know, if we would have went by Patton's lead and actually took that turn and went right over there and took out the Ruskies, we wouldn't have all the problems we have today.
True.
Well, Hitler screwed up when he opened up that second front against the Russians. If he would have left Russia alone, it would have been a completely different war.
If Stalin was going to come after him,
if you have to sit there and split your troops going to east and west,
I will say,
then it's not going to be totally, how would I put it?
Andreas, I'm going to take that one. Well, the problem is that what Hitler's biggest problem was the war against France and England. That's the war he didn't want. He always wanted to go east. So when France and Britain declared war, he spent the next 6 months of the phony war trying to get them to come to peace, because he figured they didn't care about Poland, and he didn't care enough about Alsace-Lorraine to go to war to France over it until it became inevitable, and he had to pick them out of the war before he went east, which is then what he did. And then you start backing yourself. Oh, he did start backing himself into, well, I have to do this in order to do this. And then he did that, and then he have to do this in order to do that. So then events started to run away with him to the point where there's nothing like Andres just asked about Hitler's declaring war on America after Pearl. Well, and we all said, well, the dumbest thing he did was most definitely declare war on America. The Navy had begged him to do so because American ships and planes had been bombing and chasing down German submarines and trade. So there was already a war from America towards Germany, despite German submarines have standing orders to not sink American ships, and they wanted their hands untied. His gamble was then, as you quoted in conversation with both Goebbels and Himmler, was that the Americans are not going to, the same mistake as World War I. The Americans are not going to be able to mobilize for another 2 years, and by that time we'll have won the war. I mean, everything Hitler did it makes sense, but it was all based. It made sense if you see it in the light of him basing it on speculation that
was the same mindset that the Japanese had.
Well, for me, the question of Hitler declaring war, and this is, I'm just history buff, not historian, but my feelings on that has always been, at the time when he did it, if his projections, the way he saw it going, it kind of made sense, because if Hitler's able to end the war in the East by the end of 42, maybe 43, the U.S. is not in a position to do anything at that point.
And Andres
ends in 42 or 43, then Hitler's decision to declare war is irrelevant.
Exactly.
But because it doesn't, because the war in the East doesn't end in 42 and 43.
Yeah.
Because you got to remember, at the time of Pearl, the United States military on home soil are doing maneuvers and practicing, okay, we're going to attack a tank. The tank they're using in the maneuvers is a Jeep with tank written on the side of the son of a gun, because you don't have any tanks to use in the practice field.
I mean, we had an incredibly small army, just like before World War I. We had an incredibly small army, and I think that's one of the things Hitler predicated his decision out of, looking at World War I, saying, well, it took the Americans almost 1.5 years to 2 years before they finally showed up, and then they had to train for 6 months before they finally joined the fighting. If we have the same amount of time today, like Andres just wrote, the America had the 17th smallest army in the world at that time. They're nowhere near ready for a fight. The problem is, what Hitler didn't is, now America would actively go to Europe first, which the American population would never have backed if Hitler had not declared war. And they now Lend-Lease, send a crap ton of stuff to the Russians, would make them harder fighters, because he completely overlooked the production capability. Yeah. He should have left that alone. That was probably the single biggest mistake, because if he had done nothing, America would have a hard time.
He was warned.
And it's not like he owed Japan anything. I mean, Japan made a peace treaty with Russia the day before
Japan was allied with Italy and Germany because of the tripartite pact.
Yeah. But he didn't owe them anything, because they didn't help him either.
One of them any other country would have declared war for that pact to stay together. They had to declare war.
See, well, that's another thing, and it's interesting because that's not a clause the Japanese nor Hitler had asked for in the agreement with Japan and Italy for the Tripact. It was some menial official put that in there as well. This sounds good. So he was also bound by treaty, sort of, to do so, to declare war on Japan. But it's absolutely right. It tied. Well, it was a bit of a gamble, because I've always said that the British knew of the pending attack on Pearl Harbor. I'm pretty damn sure that the American very higher ups and the president, FDR, I'm sure they knew, because FDR wanted to get in the war. He hated the Germans, wanted to dismember and destroy Germany after the war. Sort of the British, to a large extent, of the higher ups, and.
Right.
But by knowing that Pearl Harbor was going to come, because for the British to sit and say, well, if the Japanese attack America, then America is obviously going to go to war with Japan. Then if the Germans do nothing, then the Americans will give us less aid and focus on Japanese solely, unless there was an agreement between Churchill and FDR, with some indication knowing that Hitler was going to declare war, so they could focus on Germany first. Because that was always the indication before Pearl Harbor, that FDR wanted to get into that war one way or another. So all this worked out perfectly. But it would only work if Hitler declared war.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's why he started Lend-Lease. So he could actually get stuff going over there.
He already had a sort of wartime
the American.
Yeah. I know they definitely.
The whole Pearl Harbor thing We knew that there was going to be an attack. Yes, we didn't know it was actually technically going to be Pearl Harbor, and we didn't know it was going to be an aerial attack the way it was. What we thought it was going to be was a sabotage attack. In which case, we would have still been thrust into war. We didn't.
Yeah.
They even admitted that years later they did the dumbest thing possible, which was to consolidate everything together because it nearly took us out.
But that's why they bunched up the planes. Then he got hammered for that afterwards. Right. But they knew the carrier group was missing for 5 days or longer. So it's like, well,
according to reports from the Chinese, they thought they was going to the other side. They thought they were going to come from the underside. They thought they were heading for more Chinese soil than.
But I think they had an idea this was coming, especially from their own war games that the Japanese picked the idea from. And Bardo, yes, Japan and Russia, they were fighting a war in 1905 where the Japanese was on the British side. And the Russians and the Japanese were also by proxy fighting during World War II, before World War II, and as the Japanese moved into through China. So allegiances shifted, but they're always fighting anyway. And that's why the Japanese eventually declared war. Well, I mean, the Germans, they kind of should probably communicate a little bit more. Hitler wasn't particularly happy about having them as allies, but because he had them as allies, they were at war with the Russians. And then Hitler kind of pulled the rug under them by signing a deal with Russia so he can go into Poland. That took the Japanese by surprise and probably pissed him off a little bit. And before Hitler attacked Russia, they signed, because he didn't tell them about that either, they signed a peace deal with Stalin. And they were going to keep it, even when Hitler needed them to actually attack from that side. So communication would have been, it's a real thing. But
I mean, anyway. even if Japanese did not attack Pearl Harbor, we were still in the war because we were still in Lend-Lease to Russia.
Yeah, well, we were still on wartime footing, but we were not submitting our troops.
The only way to stop the United States from all that industrial was to bomb us. How are you going to bomb us?
Even if the Japanese had done nothing, a false flag would have been created by the Allies to get the war against Germany going. Yeah, the Americans were going to go to war against the Germans because that's what FDR and the administration wanted.
And Churchill.
And
Churchill really wanted the United
Someone
States
would have staged an event. Just like, I mean, a war without some event or false flags been staged in the past 150 years, there's always been some precursor. No one just went to war because it was the right thing to do, because they all need an excuse to sell it because it's all horse dung. Same thing today.
American War. Well, I was reading something somewhere that said that it was actually a aggressive explosion that happened on the Main in Cuba.
Oh yes, the coal storage blew up or something.
Dust, or like, what do they do? What, corn? Yeah, out in the Midwest, they have silos that will explode because of the corn, whatever.
Hey, we live in a world where things sometimes just explode.
Yeah. That's what happened to the Main, is that it had not coal dust, but oh God, I can't think what I want to say. Some kind of buildup of dust, and that's what made it. It was combustible, and that's how it exploded.
Yeah, we're back to coal dust, heat, and ignition. But then again, given what we know about how false flags always start things, I wouldn't be surprised if they blew up the Main themselves just for the heck of it, just to get the thing going, even back then.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, false flags have been staged ever since the time of the Egyptians, We need an
look at
excuse.
what happened in the Tonkin Gulf and the Vietnam War.
Exactly.
Well,
So I mean,
hear me out on this too. I got one for you. Hear me out on this, okay? We didn't necessarily need Pearl Harbor to get into the war. We were already on a wartime footing and everything else like that. It was just you had to convince the people that this was the right course of action.
yes.
All they had to do was take some of the intelligence that we already had on the camps and show them to the American people, and everybody would have went willingly.
No, I don't think they would.
I think they would have.
I mean,
I honestly believe
depends,
that would have done.
I mean, possibly the people would have, but the powers that be didn't give a damn about the camps. I mean, FDR didn't give a damn about what was going on with the Jews. I mean, they knew, but nobody. I mean, we wouldn't even take the children that came over in the ship before.
Yeah,
I don't think they mattered in the bigger political sense, considering there was no aid to the German Jews coming from America or Britain.
Grateful, yes. Everybody had camps. We had camps. We put Japanese in camps. The only difference is we weren't gassing them and setting them on fire.
There's that.
So there's that.
Which brings me to one thing that I keep wanting to not look into, but I keep wanting to look into it because I keep being about Eisenhower's camp and treatment of German POWs after the war, which is one of those things that I would like to not believe, but the more I keep seeing, the more I'm afraid it's true. But I'm not going to make a stand until I find at least a mass grave or something, because that's another one of those things that nobody wants to talk about. And there was the argument between the Allies of what was to be done with Germany after the war was over, where Churchill and FDR initially wanted to destroy all industrial areas, including the Ruhr, turn everything into country, and on site and identification, outright shoot the top 50,000 German soldiers and politicians outright. And Stalin did not want that, and he's the one who wanted, as it was stated in FDR's memoirs, we want them to have at least a trial before they're shot. And it's was actually the military, especially the American military, when that was floated amongst the military leadership. Yeah, well, you just shoot these Germans. That they didn't want to do that. So there's absolutely improper of us to start shooting German POWs and civilians as wanted. Well, the German was the American military, the commanders were aghast at this. I don't remember what Eisenhower said to it, but there was a lot of high soldiers, including the war minister, said, I'm in charge of doing the killing in this war, and I don't want to do this. It's all the politicians sitting back home that just literally wanted to kill every German soldier they found. But Stalin put his foot down, so at least they got the mock trial of Nuremberg. But there was certainly no love lost, Jewish or not issue or not, from the FDR administration and some of Churchill's towards the Germans at all, which is something that's really it's a dark chapter that I would love to know more about, but I really want correct information.
Well, it's like your last movie where Klaus is getting away from D-Day, from the beaches and everything. And you stop another German from shooting all these American prisoners of war. And that reminded me so much of what happened at Maltese, where the Americans were killed there.
Well, yes and no, because you got to remember the trial of Malmedy, and like, what did really happen at Malmedy? Yes, you had a bunch of American prisoners that were shot and killed, but was that in a breakout attempt? What was that? Because during the trial post-war, Hauser's men were all put on trial and were sentenced to death, and the majority of them were tortured during and before the trial.
Yeah.
And a lot of them showed up for the trial with their testicles destroyed and they were all in horrible shape. And that eventually made its way back to America, and they sent a JAG Corps out to figure out what we're doing, because they were literally just torturing confessions out of these dudes. And the majority, short of 5 or 7 of the convictions, were overturned.
Yeah.
Because so the question is, what really did happen to Malmedy?
The same thing happened to the Wereth 11. Yes, they said that they're out of the bodies that they did find, there was very few that had bullet holes in the back. They were all in the front. Some of them were even execution style. So I don't know. I don't know how to argue with that one.
It's like I don't. Again, it's one of those things. I haven't looked into it enough, but I know that most of the people convicted of that war crime was set free. So and it's not like, but all honesty, you look, everybody committed war crimes of that sort. Everybody shot prisoners. The Americans
did a war
British
crime
did
the
it,
first time around.
The Canadians did it. I mean, the Russians did it. The Germans did it. Everyone did. There's tons of documents already from D-Day where you'll read the dispatches said we took 20 prisoners, we had to move out and couldn't take them with us. Indicated they were just shot. And you see it, everybody did. It was wartime. You hate the enemy. You catch a few of them. What are you going to have them drag them around with you? And go. Everybody did it. And that's, I hate to say it, but, I can accept that explanation from all sides. Except then if you want to clean up with war trials afterwards, you have to do it for everybody, or you have to do it for nobody. You can't just say, well, we won, so we're going to put you on trial without reflecting, what the hell did our own dudes do?
Yeah, let's
Well,
not
we
talk
did,
about Canadians and trench warfare in World War One. That's a touchy subject. Let's not bring that up.
War does not bring out the best in everybody.
Not as many as that should have been, but we did try some of our own people, and we did, in fact, execute some of our own people.
I mean, we were busier trying GIs for raping French women than we were for shooting German prisoners, certainly, unfortunately. Which was another reason why a lot of the French were not particularly happy towards some of the GIs. But that's a different story. They also had a thing about looting French wine cellars. Actually, a lot of funny stories on that. The march over France was actually marred by people. Oh, here's a wine cellar. And they were drunken GIs going, we're not leaving here. All right. Some of those stories are actually quite funny.
Yeah.
There are stories of Americans.
Lots of them too.
Huh?
And there was lots of those stories.
There were, and there's some really funny stories about how Germans and GIs, a couple of Germans, a couple of GIs, found themselves hiding from shelling in a wine basement, getting drunk together, which is just awesome. Because in the end of the war, and the war started, and who decided this war was going to happen and how? Well, the basic soldiers on all sides were pretty much innocent pawns in this. They never had any damn say in it. And most of them probably would rather not be there. So getting drunk with the enemy in a wine cellar is probably not the worst thing in the world.
Well, there was many reports of, even after the war, prisoners of war becoming really good friends and even moving to different countries with each other. My favorite one was one of the ones I told you about, was that Fallschirmjäger that I had talked to personally that lives here in the States. He's long since gone, but the story was he was part of an anti-aircraft battery in Normandy, and they were firing at the planes, and there was only like 5 or 6 of them around the gun, and he turned around to go do something, and he came face to face with an American paratrooper, and they both just stood there and stared at each other for a good minute. And he said you could tell, because we were both, no doubt we were both terrified. He said he went to turn. He said, Nishizen, don't shoot. He said, but he went to turn, and the guy shot him in the ass. And he turned around and said in perfect English, "Why did you just shoot me in the ass?" And the guy was even more stunned because the German was speaking English. But after the war was over, those two ended up become friends. They lived 2 blocks from each other up until the American passed away in the 80s, and this gentleman passed away in the late 90s. But
I mean,
Go ahead.
It's only on the Western Front that after years after the war that the Germans and the Allies would get together and have drinks and talk about it and become friends. You didn't see a whole lot of Americans or British or Canadians or Australians go hang out with their Japanese captors after the war, or Germans hang out with the Russians, although a few, I suppose. But
no, Mr. Yard did not care for Japanese.
I don't think no, and I don't think the Japanese and the Chinese got to hang out after the war and have drinks and talk about what they did either.
No.
So I mean, it was still the Western Front was still the most civilized, I guess. Otherwise, that probably wouldn't happen. But again, we're also looking at fighting people that probably have more in common with each other than with anybody else, which is why it's easy to see the sadness of why are we fighting. And thank you, Greg. Drink with the enemy. All right, we'll make this movie. Somebody write me up a dialogue that's interesting, and I'm just saying there better be a pregnant woman in there, because if Hollywood was made this movie, there was a pregnant woman in there, no matter how. And yes, war is a redistribution of wealth. It's not a bad title, actually. The Wine Cellar. You know what? Of course, if Hollywood make it, it will be German and American soldiers that will end up making out with each other. And will be sleeping with the enemy in the wine cellar. But we're not making that movie. Just saying. No.
Why am I writing that name down?
Well, in the modern age, one would have to be a trans, one would have to be LGBT.
So the trans German soul.
I'm just saying.
No,
I mean, I know.
no. Please, that'd be too damn confusing.
Well, life is confusing, but
like
yeah,
dogs and cats living together, having puppies or kitties or whatever you want to call them,
or pretending to be puppies or kitties.
Yeah,
no kidding. Let's not go there. All right, I'm gonna go back to work. Otherwise, I'll never get this episode up for tomorrow.
When are you going to send me this stuff that you talked about?
I will send you. It's sitting on my phone, so I just got to transfer it over, and I'll send it to you with a couple of notes.
Tino might as well be my second husband. What?
Anybody?
Do you know how much I sit there and figured out all the emails you and I have shared?
I don't think
one of us sending one about. We are over 200 and something emails, Tino.
And one day I'll get to read them all.
And it's mainly been research.
Hey, come on now. I have plenty of correspondence with him, too. That doesn't mean I want to go Brokeback Mountain.
That's your job, not mine.
That's the Family Guy scene.
On how many I have. There's that.
I mean,
Canuck loves me, so he sends me a lot of things.
Mine's mainly research, though.
All right, let's
get. All right, and yes, I will reach out to David again. And I know, Jack, I reach out to David every month and see if I get him talking to it. I'm on that. All right, you guys, but we will talk more and keep sending in some pictures and some stuff, and let's see if we can find a Brokeback Bunker. I knew that was coming. Spawned before it rings a familiar ring. I don't know why. Maybe it's the one under the White House.
I ain't quitting.
That will be where the transportation secretary hides. And on that note, all right, you guys, you take care. I will see you all, and let me get back to editing. See if I can get the rest of Simo's spoof up for tomorrow. That was weird. And Ludo says hi, by the way.